This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, welcome to day 15 in our Google Cloud Platform training. Last week we started exploring Google Cloud Storage and we saw the various storage classes which we have in GCS, multi-regional, regional, nearline, coldline, and archive. And we had also seen nearline, coldline, archive can be multi-regional and can also be or it can be regional is what we had seen. And we also saw in the user interface they have clubbed multi-regional and regional as standard storage class. So you'll see different versions. The reason why I explained you the multi-regional and regional storage classes, if you as a cloud you join an organization as a cloud architect and this implementation was done something like before March of 2020. You will see some names as multi-regional, regional like that. So you should not be thinking why this is there, why standard is not there. And I also showed a reason why standard is not going to make more sense if you are creating uh, multi-regional or regional, because you have to look at the location, everything. So it's going to be a little tricky there. So prefer to use multi-regional, regional name. This is where we had stopped last week, and we are also did a comprehensive demo where we did everything using GS util to create a bucket which is multi-regional, regional, cold line, nearline, and archive. And we did also some demonstration, and we came to know the access time is always in milliseconds, irrespective whether it is regional, multi-regional, or any other kind of storage class. We had stopped at this stage. And one of the important thing which we figured it out was whether it is multi-regional or regional or now called as standard, there is no data retrieval cost. It is totally free. You can retrieve it n number of times, download the file, view the object, or download the object or view the object n number of times. You are not going to be charged. But if you have 1 GB file, if it is stored in nearline, archive, or cold line, every time when you retrieve it, you are going to be you'll be charged 1 cent, 2 cent, or 5 cent based on from where you are trying to download, from which storage class you are going to download. So that's an important thing to note. So the frequency, if you are going to view this data or object very frequently, better keep it in regional or multi-regional. Otherwise your retrieval cost is going to be hitting very high, because this is every time. uh, we had stopped at this stage last week. Uh, Today we'll look into another important thing where I guess some of you had asked a question also. What is class A, class B operations, and what is the difference between class B operations and retrieval cost? There was a question like, because retrieval cost looks like storage, any storage operations dot get, storage dot bucket dot get the details of the bucket, storage dot object dot get, which is download of the object. So why there is a data retrieval cost, why there is uh, a cost for something called as class A, class B operations, we'll look into it today in today's class, and I'll give you an explanation of that. So irrespective of any storage class which you are going to use, you need to pay for certain class of operations which you are going to do. So class A, most of the operations are write operations or update operations. Storage dot buckets dot insert, something of that sort. When you do insert, it's going to be a cost. Storage dot objects dot insert, object insert. So when you upload something, there's going to be a cost. That's an operational cost. Similarly, you have other stuffs, even listing your objects. So if you have a bucket and there are 20 say for example uh, some 10 or 20 objects, if you just go look into it, it's storage dot objects dot list. This is the operation. There is a cost, and that cost falls under class A operations. So here class A, class B operations, they are not per operation. Once if you hit, it's going to be one request. So 100 such operations is going to be clubbed and grouped as one cost. So it's going to be 0.005, something like $0.005 or something. There's a cost for it, but not for every operation, but for 1,000 operations you are going to be charged, and it's going to be very less. But if the number of data is more, then it can have a impact there. Class B, most of the operations are read operations, and there are few operations which is totally free, meaning deleting a bucket is not going to be charged. Deleting an object, you are not going to be charged. So these are things. Now you may have, even I had the same doubt. Storage.object.get, it is download operation, right? Then what was that which we saw in the previous slide? Retrieval cost is free. So this is where some slight internal workings. So looking into some internal forums or some stack driver or stack overflow would help you out. So basically what happens is, let me just create one bucket. Let me create a bucket. So anyway, today we are going to play around with bucket. I'm just going to pin this so that I can avoid some scrolling. So buckets. So create a bucket. And last week itself, we saw what should be a good naming convention you should use. So generate some GUID and use that is what I had mentioned. But going forward, at least for the demonstration, for the quick demonstration, I'm just going to use the project ID. Not highly recommended, but to make the demonstration faster. So I do not cannot always go and generate an idea and keep doing it. So I have mentioned it so you don't do the mistake when you are doing the real implementation. For learning purpose, it's okay. But if you feel like, okay, let me learn it the way I'm going to implement it, means always keep your GUID generator and then use it. So uh, simple demo. Just a bucket has been created with all the default setting, and let me just upload a small file giving an explanation of the data retrieval stuff there. So let me just upload a file called as question.txt. That's it. Now, when I view this, right? So first of all, there are two components which is going to be there behind Google Cloud Storage. One, you see some kind of a metadata information, the name, the size, the type, what kind of storage class. These are all something which has to be stored in some kind of a database. And the actual object content, if I just go and show you. So this is the actual object content. Let me just open it. So this is the actual object content. So there are two parts when it comes to this thing. So one is certain metadata information about the object, which is going to be stored in a database. What kind of database? We don't have that visibility. It's not mentioned very clearly in the documentation. Internal database. So metadata like name, size, created date, all those information is going to be stored in a database. And the actual object, actual binary large object is going to be stored in your GCS. So what they mean by operation, class A operation, class B operation is, so this is reads. So if you want to see the metadata information, it's going to be class B. If you want to update certain stuffs, it's going to be class uh, A. Now when you download it, this is going to be our retrieval cost. This is going to be a retrieval cost. If it is a standard storage class or regional or multi-regional, it is free. But if it is nearline, archive, coldline, there's going to be a cost. So that is the difference which you need to be aware, folks. So depending on how frequently you're going to do, think and do it. So if I just create one more time a bucket, you will see that class A, class B operations. You see this? So usually if I just put, so if it's multi-regional, per 100 operations, it's going to be 0.005 dollars, and class B operations are usually 0.004. Now, if I make it as region, it's going to be almost the same. Uh, it's going to be depending, it's going to change based on the storage class. If I make it near line, it's going to increase. Cold line, it's going to be almost same, and archive is going to have the highest class A and class B operations. So this is how it varies. So, and archive, Bucknell and Coldline, they are also going to have the data retrieval cost, But if it's standard, basically multi-regional or regional, they are going to have it free. So is this part clear, folks? Many I have seen many learners get this part confused. So retrieval and class A, class B. So at least retrieval and class B usually gets confused. You see class B operation, download objects, view metadata, retrieve buckets and bucket permission. These are all the metadata information, and to get the real object, it's going to be from the storage that is going to be free. Hope this part is clear, folks. So if this is clear, let's just go to our slides back. And even if you look into your pricing calculator, let me just show you that also. So even if you look into the pricing calculator, when you choose Google Cloud Storage, it's going to ask what is the storage class which you're going to do. If it is standard, there's no column called as data retrieval. It's going to be free. So if I just search for storage, so the first option which you get is basically for your standard storage class. So you put 10 GB, 10 GB of data, and the class A. How many class A operations you are going to do? So let me mention it as something like 10,000 class A operation, write operations, 10,000 read operations. That's it. If I just click on add to estimate, I'm going to get some cost. Similarly, that's a huge one. So the number of operations which I'm doing. Now, if I go to near line, cold line archive, I'm going to see one more extra field, data retrieval size. How much data you're going to retrieve. So that's going to make it very, very clear. So when you are designing it, make sure how much of class A operations you are going to do. So, oh, this is million. Okay, this was per million, folks. Sorry, I should have put one at least. So that was a huge number. It is per million. Sorry. Now, if I had it, it's going to be little lesser price, not scary. Okay, 5 cents or $5. So this is an important part which you should be aware about the class A and class B operations. So this does not make any difference if you are using your GCP console, your client libraries, or your GS util command. It's going to be the same thing, class A, class B, irrespective of from which place you are, in which mode you are going to do, it's going to be the same cost. So usually it is 1,000 operations per 1,000 operations. When I delete my bucket, it's not going to be charged. Now, because we just talked about deletion, right? Uh, in last class, we had seen the various storage classes. So archive, nearline, coldline, and standard storage classes. So there is something called as early deletion. So for example, if I just go back a couple of slides back, when it comes to this long-term storage class, you have to retain the object for minimum these days. If you don't retain it, you'll be paying a penalty. For example, if you keep an object 1 GB file or 10 GB, 1 GB, let's take 1 GB file, you keep it in cold line only for 60 days and delete it. What's going to happen is uh, and assume this is March. So you're going to get the bill for March at the end of March. In April, or sorry, in March itself, we are going to get a extra cost saying that early warning delete because you did not retain it for 30 more days. As per the requirement, it has to be 90 days. So you'll be charged that the 30 days cost also going to be added in your invoice and sent basically. So you have to retain it. If you don't retain it, there's going to be a early delete deletion cost. So this is the screenshot from my invoice where it's going to show nearline storage in Mumbai where I deleted the bucket well before it was supposed to be retained. So there's a cost which I need to pay. So this is an example from the documentation itself. Yeah, it's just like your deposit. Yes, that's the same example which I had given last time also. It's just like your say fixed deposit which you do in bank. So if you mention it for 1 year, but due to some emergency you want to break the bond and you want to take it out from in the 6th month itself, the bank is going to charge you because the bank would have put this money in some other investment, so they have to pay the penalty there. So this example, this words are directly copied from the documentation, and which is really very crisp here. So you have 100 GB of cold storage data in US multi-region. We know cold line can be region or multi-region. So if you add a data on the day one, for simplicity reason, we add the data on day one. So and we don't remove it till 60 days, 2 months. So you'll be charged $14. How? So if I just go back, create a bucket, cold line, multi-region, cold line. If I do it per GB, it is going to be $0.007 dollars is the storage cost. Storage cost. So that into 1 TB into 2 months is going to give you basically $14. So storage for 60 days. So meaning you'll be charged $7 every month. Now, then when you remove it on the 60th day, so then you'll be charged $7 more because you are deleting it 60 days well in 30 days well in advance. So that's going to be your early warning deletion. So that's going to be in your invoice itself. So make sure you don't do this. So otherwise you are going to pay a penalty for it. So just keep this in mind also. So there are certain processes which you are going to use Google Cloud Storage as a staging environment. For many processes, you are going to use it. We already saw App Engine, then Google Container Registry. GCR was using Google Cloud Storage as a staging environment or for keeping the container images. And if you just go back and look into your buckets, you will see it will never be basically this long-term storage classes. They'll be usually multi-regional, regional, or now called as standard. So they never put that part because there are going to be lots of deletions, additions, all those things. So at least deletions are going to be more. So they don't want to get charged. So this early deletion is something which you need to keep in mind, very important, folks. And if you delete it, you are going to be charged. Remember that. And the nice example to keep in mind is it's like your fixed deposit. You're going to have a penalty if you break it. Same thing is what is going to happen, and it's only for long-term storage classes, nearline, coldline, and archive. Moving on to the next thing, it's now a little bit time for us to think and create some stuffs. So first requirement is something like this. You have a multi-regional storage class, the standard one, uh, where videos which needs to be served with the lowest latency for 6 months. So assume you are a media company or some normal organization itself, but you have some promotional videos which you feel needs to be served from your Google Cloud storage bucket. So you host it in your multi-regional storage class for 6 months. After 6 months, these videos are not going to be important, not trending, not going to be viral. So you want to convert it to nearline or coldline or archive. That's the first requirement. So why you want to convert it back, folks? Why can't I keep it in multi-regional storage class itself? Assume these are all ultra HD videos. Each videos are something like 2 GB, 3 GB kind of stuffs. So if that is a background and you have n number of such videos, after 6 months you want to convert it to uh, a long-term storage class. What could be the reason? Any thoughts? Why we should do it? Why can't we leave it? So Anil B got it. Anybody else? Shripal got it. So anybody else? Good, Anil B and Shripal. Basically, the cost, the storage cost is going to be high, right? So we had seen in other things. So people no longer view it. Yes, if they're not going to be viewing it, so no latency requirement. So why do you want to keep it? Older videos, so just keep it, archive it basically. That's the first requirement. I have second requirement, something like this. You have received 1 TB of data from your customer to perform some data processing. So this is now data processing. Whenever it is data processing, I had mentioned you last week itself, it has to be a regional storage class. Very, very important. If we do this mistake, I guess it's not worth that we have learned cloud architect class, anything. So it's always important. So always keep your data processing, and you are going to do some data processing on a virtual machine, Kubernetes engine or anything, and these are usually zonal or regional resources, so it should be close to your region. So always use a regional storage class. So 1 TB of data I have received from the customer, I keep it in, I create a regional storage class. Maybe if the data has come from a bank which is in India, so I'm going to create a regional storage class in Mumbai and upload this. So transfer everything. Maybe if they have sent it via some Dropbox or anything, I'm just going to upload it to a regional storage class. That's good. But unfortunately, we have seen this in our everyone's career. We would have seen this, a project which you wanted to really do, but unfortunately, due to some business reasons or something, the project is going to be put on hold. So is on hold. Sorry, is put on hold. So word hold is missing. Sorry, I'll update it. So it is put on hold for 3 months. For 3 months. So you want to convert this regional storage bucket to cold line, again to save some cost. So because the storage cost for a regional storage bucket is going to be little higher compared to a cold line. And why I'm choosing cold line, because I know I have learned my concept. So 3 months is going to be 90 days. So only after 90 days I'm going to touch this data. So I want to at least reduce the cost. So what I'll do is I'll convert the storage class to cold line immediately. So two requirements. So there are two requirements. Both are different, folks, but you will see such kind of a stuff in your routine work. So if you see, the main thing is any difference which you see between the first requirement and there's no connection. Let me be very clear. Two different requirements, but I wanted your thoughts. What is the difference between the first requirement and the second requirement? The If you think from an architect perspective, the first one and the second one, any thoughts on it? Any thoughts? There's no connection. One is a different requirement, another one is this thing, but something which is good with requirement 1, something which is good with the requirement, something which is with the requirement 2. First one, yeah, the first one, as Deepak Bhandari mentions, the first one is after 6 months. The second one is immediately. So second one, the first one is regional, multi-regional. The second one is regional one. That's another important thing. So the most important thing, as Deepak mentioned, the first one is going to be, it's a well planned one. You have very good vision. This is where a cloud architect really shines. You know the requirement, you have captured it very well. You know the stuffs. Yes. Now, the moment I create a bucket, I should have some configurations where this needs to be well planned. It should be done automatically like this. I don't put a reminder in my calendar and go turn this to archive on the 6th month. I don't want to do it. It should be designed in the system. So yes, so that's where we will use something called as object lifecycle policy is what we are going to see. That's the first one. The second one, if you see, it would have happened to everybody in our work. It's a ad hoc, do it ASAP. That is a kind of requirement. So you see two kinds of requirement. One is a well planned one where architects can really shine, but sometimes there are going to be some ad hoc requirements where you need to do it on the fly. So two kinds of requirements. Let's see how we can address this, both the things in a good way. There are two options. First, let's go with the well planned one. For that, we are going to use something called as Anil Kumar mentioned, object lifecycle management. You're going to create some policies saying that if the object is in a relational regional storage bucket, after n number of days, change the storage class of all those objects into nearline so that my cost drops. After after y number of days, change it to coldline. After Z number of days, I don't need this object itself. Delete it. So I create a life cycle for my objects. So this is well planned. So as a cloud architect, from today onwards, when you create a bucket and you create a bucket for a specific need, so when you create it, you should make sure you create an object life cycle for it on the time that you create it. There's no setting which basically it's not going to prompt you to create an object lifecycle, but you should make it as a practice. Whenever there's any bucket created, create a lifecycle for it. What should be the stage? What should it happen? So that's very, very important, which is going to fulfill our first requirement, well planned one. So you can create it via console, you can create it via the gsutil command, and you can also create it using something called as infrastructure as a code, which we are going to talk in our module 7 at a later point of time. So but make sure every bucket has a lifecycle management. This is going to be important one. Let's jump into a demonstration and let me show you how we can create a lifecycle management for this. And please remember, this is at a bucket level. This is not at an object level, which is going to be inside the bucket. This is at a bucket level. Okay. Yes, what's the question? uh,
The my question is, for the first option, which is well planned one,
mhm.
my, regional and multi-regional storage class and 6 months.
Mm.
So will that change from standard to nearline or cold line automatically, or just it has to be
Automatic.
done?
It's automatic. It's automatic. That's what
Okay,
we are going to
okay.
see it. It's automatic. When you create itself, you do it. It's well planned. That's why. So, but the
That's
second
where
one, yeah,
the
go ahead.
automation will be. The automation is nothing but object lifecycle management,
Correct.
from where you configure in such a way that
Correct.
it
Correct.
will be changed to the storage class automatically.
Correct. Correct.
How about second one? Is it we need to do
Second
manually, right?
one, you have to
Since
run a
it's not
script.
planned.
You have to run a script, or you have to click on a couple of links to do it. So it's ad hoc. You need to do it right now. I want it right now. So it has
Okay.
to be a script. It has to be a script. You have to do it manually only. I'll show you
Thank you.
the demonstration. So when I
Okay.
show you the demonstration, it's going to make it clear.
You do in the system, right? You mean
Yeah,
you
we
show
are
that
going
in
to
the
do it.
system.
Yes. So now we'll create a bucket where we will do this part. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this. I don't want this. Okay, I just leave it like this. So you see this column, folks. This is the one. So when I created a bucket, uh, not just running gsutil mb or just clicking on create button is not enough. You should have a policy defined on this, the lifecycle rule. So what should happen to the objects which is inside here? So currently there's none applies to the buckets objects when they meet the user defined condition. So basically, so currently there is nothing. So what is there inside this? There's a file, and currently the storage class is called as it's standard. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we are going to create a lifecycle rule. So how do I do it in the UI? First I'll show it in the UI, then I'll show it in the command line. So if there is nothing here, just click on this none. It takes you to a page where you can create your lifecycle rules. So before we create it, what I have seen is the UI itself is going to serve some information very nicely, some kind of a documentation. So lifecycle rule lets you to change the storage class, all those things, and this is at a bucket level, not at an object level. Make that very clear. And this is an important thing, folks. This line is an important thing. So what is that? So some kind of a priority or precedence which is going to take. So if you have, you can add n number of rules. So deletion takes precedence over change in storage class. For example, if you have two store rules, lifecycle rules, one to change it to nearline, the other one to delete it, both are going to match, then the precedence is always to delete it. That's what it's going to do. The second important thing is if you have two rules which is matching, one is changing it to nearline, the other one is changing to archive. The coldest one is going to take precedence. So these two things you need to keep in mind. Okay, so let's try to create couple of rules. Okay, so the first rule, everything in the UI. The first rule is set an action. So what is the object which you're trying to, what is the storage class which we are doing? If I just go back to the main screen, it is a standard multi-region storage class. So it's standard already. So let me just click on none, add a rule. So the rule is I wanted to set the storage class, change the storage class to nearline, coldline, or archive, or delete it. These are my actions which I can take. These are the only actions which you can take. So let me do it as nearline, folks. So done. Now this is what I'm going to do. So now you should have put some criteria, right? So you should put some criteria there. So these are the various criteria which you get based on the age, the most simplest one. If the object just now I uploaded like 10 minutes before, that is the creation date of that object, the question.txt file, that was the file. Now if I mention after 1 day or after say for example 60 days, after 60 days uh, change my object, whatever is there in that. So if the object is 60 days old in that bucket, change it to nearline is what I'm saying. Change it to nearline is what I'm saying. So the action, what is the condition needs to be met, and you can have a combination. Basically, age is this, created so and so date, what is the storage class matching specifically. So you can mention the storage class has to be standard only, then only I'm going to match this. So you can put all these combinations of rules, then action and the condition. That's it, create it. Now what I have done, I'm mentioning the if an object inside this bucket, this is the name of the bucket, project ID -demo. So if it is 60 days old, change the storage class only of that object, folks, not the storage class of the bucket. Please remember. So if I see here, it is applied at the bucket level, but it's going to be applicable for those objects inside the bucket. So 60 days later, right, when we come and see, this is going to be shown, this question.txt file is going to be shown as nearline because of this object lifecycle management rule which we have built. So let's do one more thing. Let me just go back to lifecycle rule and add a rule, one more rule. Now when I add on a rule, right, this is another important information which you need to see. Whatever the rule which you're going to put, it's not going to be immediately reflected. It's going to take 24 hours. In my experience, it takes little more than 24 hours. So 27 hours is what it has taken in my own experience when I have done. So it's not going to be immediately affecting your stuff. So you cannot expect something to happen magic right away. It's going to take, if you want to have it immediately, there are options which we'll talk, but this is for well planned. So 6 months you are planning, so this is going to be a good choice. So this is going to be to put it in very simple terms, this is going to be your stock market or your SIP which you're going to do. So you are planning it for your investment very well. So that's an option kind of thing. So let me add one more rule. The rule is delete the object. The delete the object is a stuff. So I want to delete it. I don't want to change it to any storage class. Delete it. I don't need it. So when should I delete it? Let me put a condition like I want to delete it in 30 days. If the object, the age of the object is 30 days, the time it was uploaded to this specific bucket, it would have come from another bucket, does not matter. But the time when it reaches this bucket, when it was uploaded, that is the age, that is the day one of it. So after 30 days, I want to delete my object is what I am saying as a condition. So now done. Done. So I have two conditions, folks. Now, any thoughts on this before I give some suggestions on this? So I have two life cycle rules which I have created. Now, what's your thoughts on this? One is to convert to nearline. The other one is going to be delete. Any thoughts on this? You may get questions like this also, just to hint you. Deepak Bandari got it correctly so far. Anil B, your answer is correct, but slightly rephrase it. Uh, Mangesh and Anil B answers are almost same. I wanted slightly a different answer. Yes, Shripal, that is correct. But any thoughts on this? What's going to happen? Is there something wrong in this, or everything is correct in this? Any further thoughts? Basically, if I say in very simple terms, this rule is never so. Object is not needed because the life cycle will take care. Delete is not needed because life cycle will take care. Cost will incur of no. My thought is this rule will never apply, folks. This is a redundant rule. It's of no use because on the 30th day itself I have deleted it. So on the 60th day, if you see, there's no object going to be. So this rule is redundant. It's of no use. So you may get questions like this. So you need to look for that properly, whether this rule is going to be applied or not, first of all. It does not mean whether the rule is, just because the rule is there, it's going to be there. So if the object is not updated, so say for example, this is based on the creation, Anil Kumar. So we have mentioned created date. From the created date, you are going to change 30 days. So, and basically in Google Cloud Storage, you don't have an option of objects not objects update concept is not going to be there. It's a blob storage, immutable object. There's no concept of I create it today, tomorrow update it. No, there's no concept of update. You have to always override it. So you have to always override it. So basically the first rule which I have highlighted is not going to be even used itself at any point of time. And just a life cycle rule is not going to cost you anything. Okay, it's not going to cost you anything, but this rule is of no use. It's not going to be applied itself because on the 30th day itself, the object is going to be deleted. So on the 60th day, the object is not going to be there itself. So that is the main important thing which I wanted to highlight here, folks. So hope it makes sense. You may get questions on this kind of a stuff also. They may give you a life cycle rule and say which is going to apply, which is not going to apply. Okay, so and it's going to take 24 hours to reflect it. So now let me just delete this rules and to show you how it works in the command line. So for that, so I have deleted it. It's nothing there. Now you may get questions even on this kind of a format also. Let me just reconnect to my Cloud Shell. How do you apply a lifecycle rule is what is going to be seen now, basically. If you just come to your console, you see the lifecycle rule is none. So that's good. It's going to quickly show whether it's going to be there or not. The lifecycle rule is there or not. Now let me just show you how do I do it. See whether for a specific bucket, a lifecycle rule is there or not. Let me launch it one more time. So if I just use gsutil, so the command which I'm going to use is life. Type lf life and hit a tab. It should auto complete is my understanding. If it does not auto complete, yes, it auto completes. Get the details whether for this bucket is the life cycle turned on or not. Which is going to be the project ID hyphen demo. So if I just do it, it's going to show none or no lifecycle configured. Good, which is in sync with what we see in our console. Now, how do I create something in command line? So for this, I do it basically using a JSON file format, folks. Using a JSON file. And this could be also a possible question which you may get in the exam. So where they focus whether you are going to create a lifecycle rule via XML or via JSON. So this is the JSON thing where you can easily see how many rules are there. Basically, two rules are there. One is delete after 30 days. The second one is delete after 30 days. So 10 days. There are two things. Is live true? What is live? We will talk about that at a later point of time. Basically, there's a concept called as archiving, which we'll look into that. So if it is a live file, delete it in 30 days. If it is an archived file, delete it after 10 days. So there are two life cycle rules. Both are going to get applied basically. So this is the rule which you are going to do. Let me just show how do I apply it. So basically you use, because there's a get, so definitely set should be there. Set, make sure your file is there in the right, you are in the right directory, lifecycle.json on which bucket. That's it. This is going to set a life cycle on it. And if you now do get lifecycle get on that specific bucket, it's going to show you the same JSON output. So the key part here is from the exam's perspective, it's going to be saying that whether you are going to use XML configuration or JSON. Even this could be a possible question. So be aware it's going to be always in JSON. So if I just refresh it, I should see two rules are there. So want to see those details of the rules, go inside and you will be able to see the rules there. So a small tip, let me add it in the cheat sheet. Uh, in the examination cheat sheet. So let me just, yeah, I had the file. If you want to create it, you can create it. Okay, let me just show you that, folks. Okay, 1 minute. First, let me add this line. So life cycle management rules. management rules are applied using a JSON file. So the JSON is the important thing here. JSON file. That's one important tip. Another tip which you need to be aware is look for lifecycle rules, lifecycle management rules. So order, will it apply or not? Will it apply or not? For example, uh, change to nearline, change to nearline, in 30 days, sorry, 60 days, and delete after 30 days, which means nearline, change to nearline rule will never apply, which means change to nearline will never apply. So this is something which you need to be aware. Now, I already had a file, that's the reason I did it. So now if you don't, it's basically a JSON. You can just write it based on the pattern which you get here. So if I just show you, I just got it from the documentation. Now, if you want to have some complex stuff, there is an option which you can generate also. Let me just show you how. So basically it's a JSON format, life cycle, rule, and your actions. But if you see, I don't know how to do this, no problem. So no problem. What you do basically is do once in UI, do it once in UI. So for example, let me just delete these things. Let me create a rule. So make it to nearline, age is 90 days, and the class has to be matching specifically standard. Now you may ask, we are already in standard, why do we need to put this? The reason is, we will see it later. The storage class, right, it's just a container. It may have the class as standard, but inside the bucket, right, or inside that storage bucket, right, you may have different objects. Each object could be of different storage class. It can happen. So that's the reason we wanted to apply the rule only to the objects inside this bucket whose storage class matches standard. So that is where this is going to be helpful. So continue. Done. I wanted to add one more rule. Delete it. Age. Now age and 30. Now I have done it using the UI. I have done it using the UI. Now what I will do is I use my get option. So if I just use GS util, yeah, lifecycle get. So if I do this, right, I'm going to get that new rule in a JSON format. Now I can use this for my later editing, all those things. So you keep this. So now if I just get this, go to JSON validator, I get it in a nice format. I can see it. I can see whether it's in the right format. Validate. Okay, this is the rule, Anil B. So this is the rule which we have applied. You see it. Now it's in a nice format. You can keep it, and you can keep it. So that's it. Okay, so this is how I already had it, so I just used it. That's it. So that's the rule which you can do. So now this becomes like a well-planned activity which we have done. So if you were to do exactly what is mentioned in the slide, what you should have done is delete this, only this one after 6 months, right? After 6 months. So 6 months is 6 into 180 days. 180 days, if it's standard, make it as basically nearline is what we are going to say. this is going to be applied. So if I just refresh it, I should see those rules, and that's going to come into picture. The first one is fulfilled. Awesome. Now, few things which you need to keep. This is going to take time, 24 hours, for even to reflect it. Now, even if you want to do it immediately, change it. If you put life cycle rule, it's not going to work. We are very clear. We saw that also. It's not going to apply. Maybe if you want, you can give a try one more time. Let's do something like I want to change it to near line right now. Right now. If I do something like near line 0 days, it's going to take 24 hours. Even if it is this thing, it's going to take 24 hours. So if I just go to my object, keep refreshing it till the end of the class, you will not see it getting converted to near line because it's going to take 24 hours. So this is not going to happen immediately. The ASAP requirement which all the managers ask, that's not going to happen. So if you want an ad hoc way, right now I want to do it, let me show you that demonstration. So for that, I'm going to create a bucket. I'm going to create a bucket. So GS util MB minus C. Let's create a regional one. So in Singapore, and the name of the bucket, I'm going to make it as dev shell underscore project ID ad hoc. This is the name of the bucket. Bucket is created. If I just refresh it, I see the bucket. It's in Singapore. Now what I will do is I have some files which I can upload. Let me just go out. GS util. I just copy this README file. README file where I'll do GS util CP README file, and this is my bucket. For some reason, my copy is not working. 1 minute. Okay, let me just type it, folks. I'll check why the copy is not working. No, it should automatically copy to the clipboard. Maybe some setting has been gone. So I've seen such things like this. That's okay. So let me copy this. Right click should be working, so it's not working. So now file has been copied. File has been copied. README Cloud Shell. It is regional. Now the manager says, right now, change this bucket and the object inside this into nearline right now. I cannot wait anymore. I want to do it right now. If that is a kind of requirement, the ad hoc requirement, how do you do is what I wanted to show. So first, let me do the change in the UI. Some part only I can do it in the UI, not the complete part. So currently it is region, sorry, it's regional. It's a regional one. So if I click on this 3 dots, you have this option of edit default storage class. Let me repeat. If you just go to your 3 vertical dots, you have edit default storage class. What is this default storage class? Whenever you upload any object into this bucket, the storage class of that object is going to be regional. That is what it indicates. So let me change it. Now it does not show any options properly. The reason is it's not a standard one. So if I click on this one, it's going to highlight that this is standard. But here in our case, because we have used regional, right, the UI is little confused. What is the current one? I don't know. That's what it indicates basically. That's what it shows. Has been replaced is what it's indicating. Now, if I want to make it near line right away, just click on this. That's it, near line. And because you're going to do that conversion, all those things, you should be little aware of what's going to be the cost impact, all those things. So right away, I'm going to do it. Good. It changed. The storage class of the bucket is changed. Good. Let me go inside the object. It is still regional, meaning it has not fulfilled our requirement. So it has not fulfilled our requirement. So what then, why we did this change? If you ask, this is because if you upload any new objects into this ad hoc bucket, that new object is going to inherit what is the storage class which you have built configured here. For example, if I let me click on the gear icon, preference. So if I do something like GSUtil, I have something like version.txt. Let me just do GSUtil CP versions.txt file. There's a new file. So if I upload this new file, basically, it's going to have basically the class as nearline. Let me just go and show you. You see this? New objects which you upload is going to inherit what is defined at your bucket level. What is the bucket class you have defined? It's going to inherit. But for the existing object, if you were to do it, you don't need to change the storage class. Basically, what you can do is you can run a command which you can only run it in the command line. So there's no option here to do any changes at an object level. So you have to run a command line command only to do it. So the command is going to be something like you rewrite your storage class. So the command is going to be something like gsutil rewrite rew and hit tab. It's going to auto complete. At least in Cloud Shell, it's going to auto complete. If you do it in your Cloud SDK in your laptop, it may not come auto complete. Minus S. What is my storage class you want to change it to? So you can type nearline gs colon / the bucket name, head off. So this is something which you have to run. Now if you put star, all the objects inside this bucket is going to be rewritten into nearline storage class. Or you want to specify an object, you can mention it. So your choice. Let me put star in the beginning. Later I'll use a specific this thing. So if I do it, what's going to happen is basically this is already nearline, so no action taken. But this readme hyphen cloud shell, it's going to get changed to basically nearline. That's what is going to happen. Let me just do this. Done. So one object was changed basically, and you see this one skipping because it's already there. I don't need to do it. The smartness, you see that there. Now if I just go and refresh it, this one should become nearline. This is the actual stuff which you need to do. So GS util rewrite command on a specific object, or maybe on groups of object is what you need to run. If the manager or somebody says immediately ASAP change it to a different storage class, this is the command. So which has to be a command, and it is not something which is going to be automatic or something. You have to manually run this. Okay, so hope it makes sense, folks. So what we did, so about the life cycle stuffs, one, a well planned one using our object lifecycle management. The second one is using changing your default storage class or doing your gs util rewrite command. You're going to change the storage class immediately. So any questions on this, folks? Any questions on this of what we saw so far? Okay, no questions. Let me move ahead. Rewrite will be immediate. Yes, that's what you saw. Rewrite, you are doing it right away. It's going to be immediate. No delay, nothing. Immediately you want, you can do that. That's where that rewrite comes into picture. Now, let's assume the next part is we will take a 10 minutes break. Before we go, just a lead for the next component which we are going to look into. Now, we are going to use Google. Now, we saw this here also, right? In this, there's a high resolution videos or ultra HD videos which has been uploaded. 6 months, it's going to become archive. Good. Now, after 6 months, you will definitely have some new videos to be uploaded, right? New set of products. You want to do some promotions, all those things. So after 6 months, you're going to upload a new video. Now, when you upload it, uh, usually some people what they will do is if there is a video like promo.mp4 uh, promo.mp4 then there's a question. Let me just finish it and then I ask you can ask your question. So there's a video called promo.mp4. When you upload this, this is what is the current video. Now after 6 months you want to have a different video, and this is all connected in your website. So if you just go to your website, this promo.mp4 is going to play. Now 6 months later you want a new content. What people will do is they'll just simply upload, replace the existing one with a new one, so which is going to start working basically, and no change in the code or anything. You just upload a same file name into your Google Cloud storage, then it's going to work. New promotion is going to come. But unfortunately, if the senior management says, can we hold on to this promotion for 3 more weeks, later we'll do it. Till that time, can we have the older promotion video itself there? If they ask like that, and if it's already replaced, you don't have any option to revert back, because Google Cloud Storage is an immutable object storage. You cannot change the content. Sorry, once you have changed it, you are going to lose it. That's it. It's immutable. You cannot revert back. So if that kind of a scenario occurs, how we can keep a copy? Or if somebody accidentally goes and deletes an object, can we retrieve it back? Is there an option? Is what we are going to see once we come back from the break, where there's a concept called as versioning, which is going to help us avoid any accidental deletes in a bucket. Or if you want to retain certain things, archive certain stuffs, we are going to use a feature called as versioning. We'll explore this once we come back from a break. There's one question. Go ahead. What's the question?
Is it, I mean, for each action what we are doing,
Yeah.
like changing the changing or adding things which is cost effective. Does it? I mean, as part of architect, do we? I mean, in real time, do the does it require to mention to the higher management before doing any action? If something which
It depends. It depends totally on the kind of organization you are working in. If it's a startup, everybody is going to do micromanagement, all those things. If it's an enterprise, nobody's going to do micromanagement. Totally depends. But if there is a cost involved in it, I would always suggest to change, drop a mail and get a confirmation. Basically, anything on cost is always going to be important. is what I would say. So it's going to impact the cost. Why don't you
Okay.
proactively say this? That's going to be, and it's going to depend what is the mutual relationship between your manager and you, which you do. And these things may not be done by a cloud architect, but you are going to suggest it. It's going to be done by an operation person who's going to do it. So it's basically, if they don't know, they may reach out to you. So you should be in a position to do everything, give them guidance, basically. Okay. So hope that answers your question. Now, what we'll do is we'll take a 10 minutes break, folks. Once we come back from the break, we'll look into an interesting one, which is versioning concept. Okay, so we'll look into
Because
that.
yeah, one more
Is that okay?
question.
Yeah.
I'm in a different time zone because I'm on in the midnight actually.
Uh-huh.
Uh, do you continue until 10 a.m. IST?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll take a, usually we take a break every 1 hour, so that a bio break, or if you want to have some coffee or something. So that's where we take this. So let's take a 10 minutes break, folks. Come back. Once we come back, we will resume with our versioning concepts. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
So before the break, we saw how object lifecycle management works, how it's going to be so effective for any well-planned activity. That's going to be really a good one. Now let's look into the next part, a feature which is there in Google Cloud Storage. By default, the objects which you upload are immutable, meaning you cannot change the content. If you were to change it, you have to upload a new content, override it. That's basically what is going to happen in Google Cloud Storage, because it's a blob storage, immutable blob storage. Now there are situations where you want to avoid accidental deletes. You want to keep the previous version and also the newer version archived. So if you were to do that kind of a requirement, want to have that kind of a requirement fulfilled, then the option for you is called as turning on the versioning. So what it basically does is, people with background how a GitHub, a Git repo works, uh, the versioning how here works is going to be totally different. So in Git, like source codes and all, right? If you have a 10 lines of code, you add a 11th line in the source repository. Only that incremental change is going to be kept, only that incremental stuff is going to be there. Similarly, if you use the same concept here, if you have one file with 10 lines of content, now you want to change the content to 11 lines, you have to upload a new file altogether. So when you turn on versioning, it's going to have two copies. Maybe one file is 1 GB, another file is another GB. So you are going to have some storage constraints there, because you are going to have duplicates. So you are going to have duplicates when you are turning on versioning. But more than duplicates, your concern is to keep the data, and don't allow anybody to delete it. Whenever somebody even accidentally deletes also, you can restore it back. So because all the files by default is going to become like archived when you turn on versioning. But by default, for any bucket, archiving is not going to, sorry, versioning is not going to be turned on, because it's going to be little expensive, because copies, multiple copies means multiple files. So it's going to double, triple your cost. Say for example, if it's a promotional video which is of 2 GB, and you feel somebody can accidentally delete it, so you have turned on versioning on that bucket, and this is again at a bucket level, not at an object level. Nothing is going to be done at an object level, everything is at a bucket level. But the only thing is that cost is going to be at an object level. So if an object is near line, the cost is going to be for that object. If the in the same bucket, if you have a near line object and a cold line object, so there's going to be two different line items. So billing is at an object level, but all the settings which you do is at a bucket level, slightly contradicting there. So coming back, if there's a promotional video which is 2 GB Ultra HD, and you feel somebody can accidentally delete it, and I cannot keep a 2 GB file in a source code, you keep it in Google Cloud Storage, you turn on versioning. So if somebody overwrites it or deletes it, no problem, I can go and restore it, because whenever you upload something, is going to create a unique identifier called as generation number. For every object, it's going to have this generation number. Using this generation number, I can restore it back. So there's no thing of delete when versioning is turned on. If you delete it also, either via command line or via UI, it's going to be archived. It's going to become a non-concurrent file or not a live file. If it's not deleted, it's going to be a live file. Basically, this is the concept, folks. Let me show you the demonstration. It's going to make it much clear. So for this, I have deleted all my buckets already. So to have a fresh this thing. So let me just do GS util make bucket minus C regional minus L Asia Southeast 1. The name of the bucket is going to be something like shell project ID hyphen version. This is the bucket name. I don't know, there's some issue with my copy paste. I tried it. What's wrong in this, folks?
Underscore ID.
Good. What's wrong? Sorry, come again. What was wrong?
Underscore ID.
Underscore. Thank you. Thank you. Good. The bucket is created. Now, what we'll do is, I'm not going to upload a video file to show you the concept, but to understand how versioning works, all those things, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a text file. Okay. So, but before we upload the text file, see all those versioning concept, we have just created a bucket right now. Let's go and see whether versioning is turned on or not for this bucket. And you cannot see this feature in the UI. You have to rely on command line. So the bucket is created. If you click on this various columns, you don't see any column which talks about version, whether versioning is turned on or not. You're not going to get that feature. To explore whether the bucket is having that versioning feature turned on or not, you have to use basically a command like versioning. Just because my command line is not working, so I'm just going to use this versioning. Get the details whether versioning is turned on or not. So it's going to usually show suspended, which is an indication that it is not turned on. So how do I turn it on? Because you see it as get. So to turn on, it's always going to be something like set. And all these commands are already there in the cheat sheet, folks. So you can refer to that cheat sheet, which is in the Google Drive. So no need to make a note of it. Set on. So when I do this, versioning is going to be turned on from this time onwards. Okay. Now, if I rerun the same command, it's going to show versioning is enabled. Good. Versioning is enabled. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a small text file because text file is going to be really helpful for us to understand the versioning. That's the reason I'm going to use that. So I'm going to call this version file as version.txt. Version.txt, and the content is going to be very simple. Version 1. That's it, nothing else. This is the content in the text file. Save it. Now what I will do is I'll copy this content to my Google Cloud storage bucket. So copy version.txt file. File copied. Simple. Now because it's a text file, I can use a command concat. The cat command I can use to see the content from the bucket itself. So how do I do it? Something like this. This command is going to help you out to see the content directly from the bucket. So version.cat. It's just going to show version 1. So far, so good, folks. So we just created a bucket, standard way. We uploaded an object, standard way, and we are just exploring one more command, cat command, so that I can see the content right away directly from my Google Cloud Storage bucket. I don't need to download or do anything. So because it's a textual file. Now what I will do is I'm going to change the content of this version.txt file. Now you may ask, is there a command something like gsutil edit this file? There's no file like that, and you cannot do any editing in your Google Cloud Storage because it's a object storage, binary large object storage. It's not a, so if you were to do editing like that, you should have used something called as a block storage, which is your persistent disk. But our Google Cloud Storage is not a persistent storage, so it's nothing to do with its ASCII or non-ASCII. So you cannot do any file editing because the way it's going to be stored is not in blocks. It's a blob storage. So that's the reason you cannot do any changes. It's immutable. If you were to change this content, I don't want this version 1, I want something like version 2 or something like that. What you have to do is download that copy, edit it in your local system or in your Cloud Shell, then upload it back. That is the only way you can do it. So that's where I'm also doing it. So I have this version.txt file in my Cloud Shell itself. I'll change this version 1 to version 2. Saved it. Now the change is still in my local system only. So I need to upload it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it here. Now when I copy it, it's going to be copied. Now if I run this command, cat command, and see, it's going to show me the output of the live content, what was been latestly uploaded. So version 2 is what it shows. No rocket science. This is what everybody expects. So far, everything was going smoothly. Now, if somebody comes back, assume the manager comes back or the customer comes back and says, for some specific reason, can we revert back to the previous content? Now, the content could be an image, video, a textual file like this, anything. I'm taking a textual file just so that we can understand, we can see it, what has been reflecting. Now, if they ask, can you revert back to the previous one? And unfortunately, there is no backup copy in our local system, or there is no source control or anything, we'll be really in trouble. So on this object, because the previous content is already overwritten, I cannot restore it. But fortunately, in this bucket, because versioning is turned on, I can restore it. I can restore it very easily. So to restore it, I should know the complete name, all those details. So how do we get it is basically, so I'm just going to put a new tab so that we can see it back to back. So if I put gsutil ls, first list the buckets. Let me see whether I can copy paste it, folks. Without copy paste, life is so difficult. Okay, copy. Let me see, this one will work. gsutil ls. Very strange. I have to see. This is in a remote machine. That's the reason it's not working. So I tried all the stuffs. So let me type it. So today I'll understand the importance of copy paste. Okay, so if I just do this one to list all the objects in this bucket, which is basically class A operation, which is I'm doing. So so class A operation is dying, it's going to show me the stuffs. So it's not working, Mangesh. The thing is that it's in a remote machine, some setting is changed. I have to check. I've tried everything. So shift insert. Let me try something like shift insert. Okay, thank you. Shift insert is working. So you saved me something. It's working. So I'll use that shift insert going forward, at least in this for this session. So it shows one object is there. Now the manager or the customer told revert back to the previous version, which was showing version. We wanted something like, we wanted this output. This output. How do we do it? Is basically there's a small trick which you are going to do. So in Linux machines, how do you see hidden files, folks? What is the command to see the hidden files? Not the normal files, the hidden files. Minus A is what you are going to use. The same thing is what I'm going to use here also. Minus A, if I use it, it's going to show all the hidden files. So now you see an output change. If I just use ls, I see only the live file, what is currently live. If I put minus a, I see two instances or two copies of it. So there is some prefix or suffix towards the end, which is called as generation number. By just looking at the generation number, you can make out which, the higher the number, that is the latest one. So this is the highest number, so this is going to be the latest one. So now if I do gsutil cat, uh, thanks Mangesh, so I'm just going to use this command. It is going to show version 2 because you see the number, folks, slightly higher. Now if I use gsutil cat, copy this one, shift insert, it's going to show the one which we were expecting. Version 1 is there, the copy is there. Only thing is that it is now hidden, or it is archived basically. Now if I already have this, I can just do a copy from the bucket to the same bucket. I can do a copy. So when I do that, it's going to create me a new version, and I should be able to access it. So job's so simple because I have turned on versioning. So how do I do this? Basically, I do gsutil cp, where my source is, which is 6.3, that is the one. So I want this to be my live version now. So what I do is I do something like this. Remove every generation number, just make this as a live file. That's it. If I just do now, copy the older archive content to create a new version. Done, it is copied. Now if I go to the previous tab, run without any generation number or anything, it's going to show me version 1. I have successfully restored back to the previous version without much glitches. All credit goes to versioning being turned on. So versioning being turned on. So till here is it clear, folks? So easy to restore back to the previous versions, all those things. So till here is it clear? Thank you. So now a question for you people. So before I did this revert back all those things, when I did ls minus a, you saw two entries. Now let me do the same thing. Now how many entries would you expect, folks? How many entries would you expect? 2, 3, or 1? So minus a is there, so it's going to get the hidden files also. So when I hit enter, it's going to show me 3 files, folks. 3 files. The reason is it was a new version which you created. So a new thing is going to be done already. So that is a thing. So every time when you do, it's going to be a new version. So you're going to have 3 times cost paid. For me, the cost is not an important thing. For me, retaining the stuff is the important thing. So my goal is totally different. So 3 is going to be there basically. Now so many files are there. Now if you ask me what is the latest one, with little trick I can say the last one is the latest one, but it's going to become little tricky. So I cannot rely on just the number is bigger, go and do it. So it's going to be little tricky. I need a better solution to know what is the latest file, what are the archived files. So I cannot easily tell also here if the number keeps growing. So you have too many versions. So for this, what you do usually is you use a command called as capital L. And all these things are only in command line, folks, unfortunately or fortunately. So it's all going to be in command line minus capital L. If you do, it's going to give you a complete picture. So for example, if I copy this first object and do shift insert, it's going to give me a complete picture of that object. So complete picture of my object. If I just go you see this object. Now there's going to be one important line which is going to be here, which is going to help you out to find whether it is an archived file or not. What is that is there a change there? Okay, I have to show this also. 1 minute. Let me just do A. There's going to be one flag which indicates it is archived. Uh, what is that file? I usually forget that name. Update. Let me just do this. Concurrent value, something is going to be there, so I'm not able to get that. Let me just see it. I'm just seeing all the three objects. Okay, here it is not there. They don't have any change. I cannot see. Okay, so it is here. I have to do it. Sorry, folks. I have to run a command called as stat. They changed this actually. If I do a statistics on this, so it's going to show me some details. So one of the details is going to be something called as non-concurrent time. Non-concurrent time. So this is a slightly a new thing. They just changed it. Previously with minus capital L, it used to show. So now when I just put a stat on this, it's going to, or maybe I can put a stat on the complete stuff. Okay, it works on a specific URL. Okay, it always shows this one. Okay, let me just do something like this. GS util minus ls minus a. GS util ls minus a. These are the objects which I have. So I can use this command called as stat. So if I copy the first one, it's going to have a non-concurrent time. So this is an indication that it was archived at so and so time. It was created at, it's going to be using UTC time. So it was created at 1:57. It was archived at 1:59. That's what it indicates. Now if I select the second one, if I do GS util stat, it also has a non-concurrent time. It also has a non-concurrent time. So it was created at 1:59, but was archived at 2:04. Now the time it should be somewhere around 2 o'clock or something. So if I use the last one, that is the live one. This is the live one, right? This is the live file. So for this live file, right? If I do GS util stat, you will not see that entry itself. That attribute non-concurrent time will not be there. So let me just show you for one more thing. So this is one command which is going to help you out to find out whether this non-concurrent time exists or not. For the live content, you will not have that attribute itself. For the archived stuffs, you are going to see it basically. There's one question: if you switch on the public IP, which one will be accessed? The latest one. So the latest one. Now if you go to your UI, look into it, the UI will always show you the live content. So if I just click on this and look into this, it's going to show version 1. It's going to show version 1. It's always the live one is not going to be shown. The archived one will not be even shown here, folks. That's where the UI has a limitation. It will not even show it. It will not even show it basically. So hope that answers your question. So now what I will do is I will delete it. Accidental delete. I'm just going to accidentally delete it and let's see what happens. Not sure why it takes so longer to delete it in the UI. Okay, deleted folks. Accidentally I deleted it. Now, can I restore it? Definitely with my versioning I can restore it. So if I just go and run this command, how many files would you expect? I have deleted it, folks. I have deleted it. There's no live file. Now when I go and put ls minus a, how many files would you see, or how many versions do you see? Basically 3 or 4 or 2 or 0. 0, 3 or 4. I got one response, two response, three response. So basically it's going to be 3. Why? I'll tell you. First let me show you it is 3. Now why it is 3 only is the file was there. Now the last one, which was the live one, when we saw that non-concurrent time entry was not there, now it is going to have it. Only that metadata has been added. That's it. So it's going to be 3. And if I just do gs util stat, now it's going to have a non-concurrent non-concurrent time entry. So the time now, if I just search the UTC time now, it's going to be UTC time now. It's going to be around 214. So it was archived at 214 or 212 now, basically. So this is going to protect you. Now, every file which you have is archived. So because everything is archived, that is the reason why you don't see anything in your UI. All are, so UI always shows live content. It will never show you the archived content. It's like your Windows machine where you can have an option of show hidden files or don't show hidden files, something like this. The UI only shows normal files, not the hidden files. Now, if you were to restore it, if you were to restore it to, you tell me what version you want to restore, I can restore it. Which version do you want me to restore it, folks? Which has version 1 content or version 2 content? We can restore anything. We have that this thing because we have turned on versioning. So now if I do gs util cp, I want the first version or maybe the second version. Let me just do the second version. So if I do cat, it's going to show version 2. Now I want this to be made as a live file. So how do I do it? Simple. CP, the file is already in my cloud, Google Cloud storage, but in an archived form. So I'm just going to make that. That's it. Copy. Make this as a live file. Done. Copied. Go to your UI because it has a live content. It's going to show you. It's going to show you, and when I look into it, it's going to show basically the content is going to be version 2 is what it's going to show. It's going to show version 2. Now last and the final question for you people. Now if I put gs util ls minus a, how many files do you see, folks? 3, 4, or something totally a different number? Now everybody is giving the right answer. So now you got the concept. So I'm happy. So it's going to be 4. It's going to be 4. And looking at the time, this is the last one. If I do gs util stat, it will not have any non-concurrent time attribute, basically. Now the next question which comes, is it going to incur cost? 100% is going to incur cost. Now it is going to 4 times increase my cost. Assume this each file is 1 GB. So instead of keeping 1 GB, I'm keeping 4 GB. Now it's going to incur cost. Can I reduce this cost? So this is where again you fall back onto your life cycle rules. Life cycle rules where you will say, I don't want to keep n number of copies. At least one last backup copy is okay for me. So you can put a life cycle rule there. Or you want to explicitly delete it, you can delete it. How do you do explicit deletion? Is basically you should not, if you just do something like this, version.txt file. This is not explicit delete, folks. It's going to just get archived. So if I just do it, let me just show you. RM file deleted is what it's going to show. But if I just still go and see, I'll see all 4 entries. All 4 entries are archived. So the explicit way of deleting is basically you have to mention the complete generation number, and then do gsutil rm. This is the way you delete the complete file manually. Now one file is deleted. If I do gsutil ls minus a, is going to show only 3 entries. This is one way, a manual way. So can I do something with a little more automatic, well-planned way? So what you do is basically you go to your lifecycle rules, add a rule. So what you do is something like delete. I don't want to keep any older files. So I don't want to do any change in storage class. Delete. Delete what? What do you want to delete? So this one. Live state applies only to the versioned object with the selected state. So I want to delete non-concurrent objects, which is 10 days old. Make sense, folks? 10 days old only if it is non-concurrent. Delete it. I don't want to keep it. So this way you are reducing your cost. So a previous concept learned is getting applied to a new concept which you are learning. So this is how you can apply for your non-concurrent objects, folks. Is this clear? Any questions on this part, folks? Yes, this is going to apply after 24 hours. Yes, it's going to apply after 24 hours. If you want immediately, you do the command line way, which I showed you. Just do gsutil rm. So use this command, Mangesh, if you want to do it immediately. That's it. So, or if you say no, this is going to be really incurring cost for me, I will manage somehow. I'll manage somehow, no problem. Just go to your gsutil, turn off the versioning itself. Turn off the versioning itself so that you are not going to be impacting the stuffs itself. Turn on get. I just do versioning. You stop the versioning itself. Versioning. Is going to show enabled. If you say this is really becoming serious, I don't want to do play around with it, I'll handle it somehow, no problem. Set it back to off. Suspending. Now if you do get back to uh, square one where you started with, now it's all back to the normal state. Now if you cannot do any versioning concept. So this is another option. If you want to do stop totally doing versioning, you handle it in some other way. So that's the option. So now that's versioning, folks. That's versioning. Now let's spend some time in the various transfer option, because as I mentioned, this Google Cloud Storage is going to act as a staging environment in many use cases. So from on-prem to GCP, you want to do some migration. The first product which is going to come to our mind is Google Cloud Storage. A database migration needs to be done, Google Cloud Storage. Most of the time, this is going to come handy. I would say this is the best bet for most of the migration stuffs. So let's look into the various transfer options which Google provides us. So there are different options. Let's go one by one. The first option is you have assume you have something in on-prem. So there's going to be only two options or three options maximum. On-prem to GCP is one option. Other cloud to GCP, like from other cloud like AWS, Azure, Alibaba Cloud, IBM Cloud, or Oracle Cloud to GCP. And the third option could be from another GCP project to your GCP project. Only three options only exist. Nothing else exists. So let's see how we can cover all the three options. So first of all, let's take on-premise. And the assumption which we are going to do is from on-prem, there's a very good network. the bandwidth connectivity is really good from my on-prem network to GCP. So if that is the case, I can simply install gsutil command. I have no issues because the bandwidth is really, really good. What extent? Something like at least 50 Mbps or 100 Mbps bandwidth is there, so I'm going to use it. Most of the companies will have at least 100 Mbps as the lease line, so that's going to be good enough. So here, if I were to transfer n number of small files, we are going to use basically this -m option, which I mentioned, multi-threading. So any command, if you want to multi-thread it in GCP in Google Cloud Storage, you can use gsutil -m. gsutil -m ACL is what we had seen last week. If you were to copy multiple small files, what you do is -m cp small files, and it's always preferred to have something like files you compress it and do it. So say for example, every day it's going to generate one file, one text file. So in a month it's going to be 30 files, and in an year it's going to be something at 300 30 files, 365 files. uh, Files are going to be there. Now what you can do is, if you want to do something like monthly upload, compress those small files into one file, something like gzip it or tar it, then upload it. So compression is always going to help you out there. So that's the first option which you can do. And when you are uploading certain files, right, you should make sure the naming convention is also followed. So the file should not be one dot text file, two dot text file, three dots. It should not be like sequential. So make sure some kind of a hashing is there, some randomness is there, so that the entire process gets distributed. So Google Cloud Storage is a distributed system. So if you have a sequence when you are copying it, uh, behind the scene there's going to be some kind of a storage component, compute component running. So everything is going to run on one single node. It's going to get hot. There's going to be a feature called a problem called as hot spotting is going to come into picture. Hot spotting is going hot spotting is going to come into picture. So always don't have a sequential numbers. The file should not be one dot text file. So have something like a reverse timestamp with some hash prefix. So that way the entire process can be distributed. So that's one small recommendation. This is for small files, which works. -m really helps us. So let me just show you how this -m really works with a copy command. So for that, I'm just going to use, do I have any files? Yeah, I have this file. Java doc examples. So I have lots of files here, folks. Lots of files are there. Now what we will do is we'll upload all these files into a Google. So what we'll do is we'll upload this to our Google Cloud Storage. So gsutil CP. I'm not putting -m, folks. I wanted to show you how long it's going to take. CP -r, because there are lots of content which needs to be recursively copied. Maybe I'll come out. So I'll keep this. I'll go to this other tab. gsutil CP Java, this thing. This is the content which I wanted to do, and I want to do recursively because there are lots of folders. So where I wanted to copy to this bucket. Now I'm going to put time in front of it. A good amount of content is there. So let's see how long it's going to take this file to get uploaded. So now already Google is saying some recommendations. Looks like you are, if I just go up, it's going to say the moment you start it, it's going to say you are doing it in sequence. Why don't you do, you see this? You are performing a sequence of GS util. You may significantly faster it if you use -M option. So that's what it's going to indicate automatically. So let me just see the last thing. It's still copying, folks. It's still copying. By the time this copies, I'm going to create one more bucket. I'm going to create one more bucket, GS util minus less. So GS util minus, sorry, MB create bucket minus C regional minus L in Singapore. And the name of the bucket, I'm just going to call it as something like this, 2. Why? I'll tell you why I'm creating this bucket in a minute. So done. Is the copy done? Still going on. The copy is still going on because everything is going to be in sequence, one after the other. It's going to take a huge amount of time. So it's going to take a long time. Now what I will do is run the same command here, also, but with only one flag. Okay, it's not showing up. So GS util minus M. This is the only change which I'm doing, minus M. This file, the bucket name has to be, and I can hit a tab also, folks. Sometimes it's going to work. So tab also going to work. So the only change is minus N, nothing else. So now I will not see that warning message itself that you are doing it in sequence because I'm already doing it in a multi-threaded fashion. Let me show you how it's going to work. Oh, what happened? Sorry, it should be recursive. I did not use recursive. I have to use recursive. Just do it. Now this is going to be in a sequence. You see that it's going to be like 10 files, 20 files in a shot. It's going to be little faster compared to other things. So if I see the other one, it took 2 minutes to complete entire stuff. Let's see whether this is going to be super fast. It should be definitely lesser than that because you are doing it in a multi-threaded fashion. So let's just wait to see how long it takes. So the entire process, the first one took 2 minutes. Estimated time, I don't want to switch the screen, so let's just wait. Maximum should be less than 2 minutes. It's almost done. 48 seconds, folks. You see the whole difference of minus M, multi-threaded one, and the command has to be always in front of GS util. We have seen this in our last week class itself. So any command, so if I just see, if I were to multi-thread CP command, what you do basically is put minus M in front of it. If you want to multi-thread your ACL command, you put minus M in front of it, basically. So hope this part is clear, folks. The multi-threading is going to help to a great extent. I don't need this bucket. That's the first option. Small files, you could have even compressed it. It's going to be better one. And make sure the file names are having some randomness, not like a sequential monotonically increasing numbers. Avoid that. The second thing is, what about the large files? So if I have some ISO images, so from my on-prem, I have some ISO images which I need to bring it to Google Cloud Storage. So in this case, usually the ISO images would be minimum 1 GB files. So in that case, what will you do is basically you can use something called as parallel composite upload, multi-part upload. So instead of uploading 1 GB file directly, what if you use this parallel composite upload option, what is going to happen is you're going to split this file into chunks. So in this, I have mentioning parallel composite upload threshold is 200 MB. So if my file size is 1 GB, it's going to create a chunk of 5 chunks, 200 MB, 200 MB of 5 different chunks. And then it's going to upload basically this 200 MB to individually to my Google Cloud Storage bucket. Once it reaches the storage bucket, it's going to then combine all those chunks, and then it's going to make it as one single file and delete those temporary chunks. This is what is going to happen. So let me just repeat the step. So 1 GB ISO object split into 200 MB, then uploaded as 5 chunks. Once uploaded, those chunks are combined to 1 GB back, and those 5 chunks, 5 objects, you have to save some cost, right? So 5 objects, otherwise it's going to be 2 GB, right? 5 objects will be immediately deleted immediately deleted in the GCS bucket. This is the process for your parallel composite upload for large files, which is a cool feature because you can make it as smaller chunks and do it. But now connecting back with what we have learned, now if you are uploading a very large file, what is that storage class which you should avoid? We have multi-regional, regional, now it's called as standard. We have nearline, we have coldline, we have archive. Now, what is that storage class we should never use for a large for uploading a large file, and that too with parallel composite upload turned on? If you have turned on that flag, and what is that storage class which you should avoid, or is there any mini storage classes which you should avoid? Why you should avoid it? Any thoughts? This is based on what we learned in the previous slides, connecting it, and the hint for you is this line. Which storage class you should avoid, folks? May not be an examination question, but when you're doing real implementation, you should make sure you use these things. Learned stuffs you're trying to put it. What is that storage class which you should avoid? Why? Put it in the chat. Don't spell it. Don't unmute yourself, just for others to think. What is that storage class or classes which you should avoid, and why? A reason is also important. What is that which you should avoid? I got a couple of responses. Couple of wrong answers also. Okay, a mixed one. All the combinations mentioned by everybody. So first of all, look at this requirement, folks. The chunks are uploaded. It goes to Google Cloud Storage. It's going to combine, and those chunks are going to be immediately deleted. That word immediately is very, very important, folks. It is very, very important. This is the word which is important. Now, what is that storage class which I cannot use where the objects are going to be immediately deleted? So what are the storage classes which you cannot use if you're going to immediately, the moment you upload it, you are going to delete it? So what are those storage classes? These are 3 storage classes which you cannot use, right? Because you need to, when you have an object uploaded into nearline, coldline, and archive, minimum retention is 30 days, 90 days, 365 days. So if you upload this, you are going to have a early warning delete. So when you are uploading a large file, usually depending on whether it's a video which needs to be served with the entire world, prefer multi-regional. If it's for data processing, prefer your regional, but uh, never ever use nearline, coldline, and archive. Does it make sense, folks? So it is, what is the concept which you learned? Basically, this is the one. The minimum retention is going to be important. And because you have turned on parallel composite upload, you have to make sure you avoid this. If you have not used parallel composite upload, no problem. You can upload it to anything, but it's going to take longer time. So it's going to take longer time. Okay. So that's where the concept which you learn, you try to connect it. And this is where really the cloud architect is going to come into picture. Each and small, minute information, you design it in such a way that it's going to be really robust, cost effective. Okay. So maybe it could be a backup file. Maybe it's a backup file. It does not need to be in regional bucket. It needs to be in archive or something. No problem. What you do is turn on parallel composite upload. Use GSUtil. Upload from your on-prem to Google Cloud Storage regional storage class for a short moment. Let it get uploaded. Once it gets uploaded, change your the object storage class. You can do that with rewrite command, right? That's going to be the most effective way. Now, what and all we learned from the morning, we have applied everything to upload a backup file. Does this make sense, folks? So what to use, what not to use when you're using parallel composite upload. Parallel composite upload, when you use it, avoid uh, long-term storage classes, because that immediate delete is going to attract your early warning deletes. You're going to get that early warning deletes. And because you are uploading, you are going to be charged very highly, because your chunks are going to be really high, 200 MB, 250 MB. You're going to have this basically. So this is going to work very well. But the biggest drawback of gsutil command here is you cannot do any scheduling. You have to write some shell script or a batch script to put it in your Windows scheduler or in your cron tab, but there's no scheduling option available. So schedule is not going to be easily implementable. You have to write a code, but it is possible. It's not that it is not possible, but you have to write a code there. Multiple times you can transfer it. Every time, every day, if you want to do it, you can schedule it. And from on-prem to GCP is the main part. It's going to work. Simple. In your on-prem, you just install your gsutil command, configure your stuff, it's going to work. And the only prerequisite is have a better bandwidth. Otherwise, it's going to be slow. It's going to take ages to do it. So that's the first option. Is this first option clear, folks? Before I proceed further, uh, just using your known command, gsutil, with some enhancements. Thank you, Deepak, for confirming it. Now, let's move to the next one. Thank you, Deepak and Vivek. So let's move on to the next concept. So how long you will be in on-prem only? So you have to come to cloud at some point of time. You have come to cloud. Now, there are two scenarios. Now, you are in cloud. You have some other public cloud also. You want to transfer the data from there. Say, for example, like AWS. In AWS, the equivalent of Google Cloud Storage is called as S3 buckets. In Azure, it is called as blob storage. So assume the data is in those two popular cloud, and you want to transfer those data into GCP because you wanted to do a migration from AWS or Azure to GCP. There is some data there. So that is one possible use case, cloud to cloud data transfer. Or you are in a dev project, you want to transfer some data to some production project, or vice versa, GCP to GCP projects. Or maybe there's a data in your sister company who's also using GCP. From their storage bucket, you want to transfer it. So basically, cloud to cloud, any combination, GCP to GCP, GCP, or non GCP to GCP, any kind of combination if you have, because it is between cloud to cloud, bandwidth is going to be little better only. So you don't need to comment much on that. It's going to be always better. So in that case, you're going to use a service called as transfer transfer service for cloud. So this is going to be helpful from GCP to GCP, or from non GCP cloud to GCP. So it's a a small service which you get called as transfer service for cloud, using which you just transfer it. But the most important thing here to note is this is only from cloud to cloud, folks. No more, you cannot do anything from on-prem, only from cloud to cloud. So, and it can help you. It has a built-in scheduler. It has a built-in scheduler to do it, and you can run this multiple times, all those things. So let's just look into this demonstration and see how it works. So for this, what I will do is I will use the same project itself, but I'll show you a use case. I'll show you a use case where from one bucket to another bucket I do it. How I do it is what I'm going to show. And if you're interested in looking into the same thing from S3 bucket to Google Cloud Storage, I'll show you a link which you can look into. So I had an AWS account, so I had tried it a year back. It worked. So, but now I don't have the access. So let me use this one. So what I will do is basically create two buckets, folks. GS util minus, sorry, MB C class is multi-regional. Specifically, I wanted to take multi-regional. Minus L Asia. MR. I'm just going to call it as MR. Created R. What's the thing which is wrong here, folks? What thing which I made it as wrong here? The previous command worked, the next command not working. What's wrong here, folks? What should be the location then? What should be the location? It should be a region. Yes. So it is saying that location constraint in the storage class does not map. You are mentioning regional, meaning you have to mention a region, not a multi-region. Asia is going to be a multi-region. So you have to mention a specific region. So now this is going to work. This is going to work. So the two buckets are created. One is a multi-regional one, another one is a regional one. So before we go to the transfer service option, let me show, create a scenario here. There is a junior person, a cloud architect, and a senior cloud architect. Now there's a project which is going to come into picture, which needs to be basically executed. Good amount of data has come from the customer side. So assume you are the senior cloud architect. You assign this task to this person. Copy this data, put it into a Google Cloud Storage bucket, and we will start doing the next part of the analysis is what you're going to say. Now this person is little junior. So what he will do is basically he has uploaded the data into a multi-regional bucket. Mistake, right? So it has to be a regional one. This is for some data processing. So but this person is junior, so this person made a mistake of uploading it to Google Cloud Storage. Now let's assume the file which he has uploaded is this one, gs util cp, then, and he did not even use a command line. Maybe the user did everything in the command line, UI itself. So copied, the file is copied. Let me add a few more files. We have not even come to storage transfer service option, folks. We are just looking at a mistake which somebody did it. and we wanted to rectify it. So now if I just go here, so there is a multi-region one in Asia. This is what the person created. You as an architect, senior architect, told copy it to a bucket because you thought he is also an architect. He knows this is for processing. So you have not gone to the fine grain information, create a regional one in this specific region, then upload it. You have not given this. So you are under that impression that he can do that. But what this person has done is the person has uploaded in a multi-regional one, and the files is what you see. It is multi-regional. Now this is for data processing. You cannot keep it in multi-regional one. You have to make it as regional one. So you have to make it as a regional one. So how do I change this, folks? First of all, how do I change this from a multi-regional one? I have to change it to a regional one. What's your thoughts based on the stuffs which you have learned so far? I have a bucket which is multi-regional. I want to convert this into regional, or at least the objects which is there, I want to convert it. How do I do it? Any thoughts? What are the different options which you can think of? Not possible. You need to delete and create a new one. I have already copied it. Can I little save some? At least my cloud to cloud copy is going to be a good one because I don't want to upload again from my local system. Let's be little smart here. If we were to recreate it, it's going to incur again cost. Uh, so multi-regional to regional, can we migrate? Can we do that? How do we do it? Let me know the steps. Assume this is the task which is given to you only. You have to do it. How do you do it? Uh, how do we do it? Can I do something with this one, folks? Uh, what we learned in the morning, changing the default storage class or using rewrite command. Will that help us? Can we give a try? Would that work? Let's give a try and let's try to understand it. First of all, let me just look at the bucket level. Can I directly change this multi-regional to regional? Let me click on it. So currently this is standard. Now I cannot convert is what it shows. So if I make it near line, let me make it as near line for a minute, folks. Let me make it as near line. Save it. So what has happened? From a standard storage class or from a multi-regional storage class, it has become near line. But look at the location type, folks. It is still multi-region only. It has never become region. So if I can do it back one more time, it does not work. What we learned did not work. At least changing the default storage class is not going to work for us, is what it is very clear. Just changing the default storage class, you can do basically from standard to near line, standard to cold line or archive, but the location is going to be multi-region only. The location type cannot be changed, is what it very clearly indicates, and your cost is going to be based on this only, basically, right? So where it is, whether it's a multi-regional standard or regional standard or multi-region code line. So based on that only your cost is going to come. So our first option was not helpful. Let me use that rewrite command, whether it's going to help me or not. So currently it is multi-regional, right? Let me try to change it. So what I'll do is I'll copy the bucket name. So I'll put GS util ls. We know the objects. Now what I will do is I'll do a rewrite command. GS util rewrite. Hit a tab. It's going to show you that -s. So what do you want? It is currently multi-regional. I want to make it as regional. I want to make it as regional. So I'm going to make it as regional. Regional. So let me mention this. star, or you want to put it on a specific object, I can also do that. Let's try with one object. Let's try doing this. What is that it's showing? Rewriting. Combination of the location constraint and storage you provide is not supported for your project. What does this indicate, folks? What does that indicate basically? I cannot change a multi-regional storage object into a regional one. Basically, this is a constraint, and I can give you a possible answer. May not be the right answer, a possible answer. So, thing is that just take a high level picture, multi-regional. The data is replicated across minimum three regions. Now you are trying to constrain that to one specific region. So maybe this is one of the reasons why they don't support this command directly. The GS util rewrite is not going to support. Changing the default storage class is not going to support. Now, if these things does not work, is there anything else which you can think of? Forget for a minute, transfer service exists, but assume that was not there. How would you have done? And I don't want you to recreate from the scratch. You can still do it. You can still do it. There's an option. So, but the stuffs which we learned is not going to work because multi-regional to regional is not going to work. A regional to multi-regional, this combination is not going to work. So if it is multi-regional, you can make it a multi-regional cold line, multi-regional archive, multi-regional near line. But from a multi-regional to regional is not going to work. It's very clear from the commands, and we have seen the errors. Any other thoughts, folks? I have something in multi-regional. I want to transfer it to regional, but I don't want to again upload it from my local system. And we have not even explored transfer service. So, but with what you have learned, can you do something? Can you do something? Change in neon file. Okay, because it is a text file, you can do it. Nano file. JSON. Change in the JSON. What is the JSON file which you are referring to? I thought it's a nano file which you're saying. So what is the JSON file? JSON file was basically your object lifecycle stuff, right? So, or your, yeah, that is the thing. So it has nothing to do here. You want to put a lifecycle rule to change the storage. Again, that's not going to work. So if you see here, if I show you here, it is a standard one, multi-region. If I add a rule, the rule is going to always do it from nearline to cold line. So it is already in standard. If it's in standard, it's going to be either nearline, cold line, or archive. So you cannot change it to regional. So that option is also not there. That option is also not there. So it looks like all the stuffs which we learned from morning is not helpful for us. But there's still one option which I can say without with our knowledge which we have gained, we can definitely do it. Why don't you do a copy, folks? Bucket to bucket copy, you do it, right? GS util CP, instead of having a local source, copy from multi-regional bucket to a regional bucket. Job done, right? You can do that. So let me just show you. Without any sophisticated stuff, I can still do this. But only thing is that I should be aware of that command. So if I just go to my regional bucket, just wanted to show nothing is there. Nothing is there. And in my multi-regional, there is a content. If the regional bucket is not available, then create it. Regional bucket will be definitely available. What is a situation where you see regional bucket is not available? It's going to be available every time. It's available across all the 24 regions. There's no region which you can have where you cannot create a bucket. Everywhere you can create it. Everywhere you can create it. So is available. You can. So there's no problem you creating a regional bucket. Now what we'll do is do GS util If you want to use -m, you can put, because if you want to do it in multi-threading, but it's only 2 files, no need. But there's no harm putting it. There's no harm putting it. So what I'll do is from bucket to bucket copy, folks. That's it. Copy, put a star, move it here. Now, copy is one option you can do, or you can do MV, because this was a mistake done by the junior person. So why do we want to keep the object still in the multi-regional one? Just do it. Move it from multi-regional one to regional one. Let's do this. Okay, something wrong. What I'll do is I'll not put star here. That's going to work there. That's it. Copy mode. That's it. So I'm able to move it. So the files are moved basically. Actually, there's no move command, folks. To be very frank, there's no move command. It always does a copy and then delete it. So two-step process. Okay. So that's how it shows. Copying the file, then removing it there. So that's how it did it. So if I just go to my multi-regional one, it is empty. If it is in my regional one, it is there. It is there. So now with one simple gsutil command, what I know, I have used it basically, and it worked. This is one option you can do it. But if there is something which you were to do this kind of a stuff routinely, this could be one possible use case why you can use transfer service for cloud. And there are n number of other use cases which you can use. So what I will do now is I want this back in the multi-region for the demonstration. So I'm going to use the other same command in the reverse way. So mode it back because I needed this for another demo. So gsutil you can do this way. Now I don't want to run gsutil command. I don't know the gsutil command. How do I do it? The data is back in multi-regional one, and the regional one is going to be empty. Is going to be empty. Now without gsutil, can I do something else? Can I do something in the UI? That is where your transfer service is going to come into picture. So for that, if I go to my storage, transfer data. So transfer data, you have three options, folks. Transfer service for cloud, transfer service for on-premise, transfer appliance. So what we are exploring is transfer service for cloud. This is meaning between cloud to cloud. So we will explore the remaining two after we explore this one. So let me click on transfer service for cloud. We'll just do this and then take a break. So the part here is transfer data from your Google Cloud Storage bucket to your Google. The destination is always Google Cloud Storage. That is simple. From Amazon S3 bucket, from a public URL which are tab separated, or from another Google Cloud Storage bucket. Azure is also recently added. So this is what you do. Basically, it's from cloud to cloud. As simple as that. Now, there's the part. So if I just zoom this a little bit, these are the possible sources, folks. It could be another Google Cloud Storage bucket. It could be AWS, Amazon S3 bucket, or Azure Blob Storage. So the most popular cloud provider, they have already provided that. Or it could be a list of URLs which is tab separated, but it should be public. It should be tab separated, then only it can do it. So four options are there, but nowhere on premise is there. Please make it very, very clear. This is transfer service for cloud option. So it's only cloud to cloud. So if you were to do something from S3 to Google Cloud Storage, there's a video in my channel. You can look into it. You can look into this. So if I just S3, if you just search for S3, you should get that. And it's just a 2 minutes video or 3 minutes video. Just putting it in the chat. If you want, you can look into it if you are interested. Now, since I don't have a S3 bucket now, I have shown that completely in that demonstration. I'm just going to use Google Cloud Storage only. So Google Cloud Storage is my source. Browse. I'll choose my multi-regional one. So if things are all fine, it's going to show a green tick. Then I have some filters which I can put. I want to only transfer files which is .png, only some files, only if the age is this much. I can put certain restrictions there, what I need to transfer. I'm going to leave just everything as default. Continue. My source is configured. My destination is always Google Cloud Storage. I cannot have any other destination. So it could be from S3 bucket, it could be from Azure, it could be a public URL, or it could be from another Google Cloud Storage bucket. But my destination is always GCS. So in this case, my destination is going to be a regional bucket. A regional bucket. The green tick indicates it should be something which is going to be all good. Things are all good here. Now I can do that mistake which that person did, the junior person, because it was in multi-regional one. So what I'm going to do is some transfer options. Delete the object from the source once they are transferred. So my multi-regional storage bucket is going to be empty. An empty bucket is not going to cost you anything. So this is what I wanted to do. So a repeat of what we did. So we selected a multi-regional storage bucket as the source. We selected a regional bucket as the destination, and we added one extra configuration saying that our setting delete whatever is there in the source once it is transferred, only once it is transferred. That's it. Click on continue. Now you have that inbuilt scheduling capability, folks. Inbuilt scheduling capability which you can do. You can run it right away if you want. It's going to run it right away, or you want to schedule it at a specific time, you can also do it. So you get two options. But the limitation with this option which you have is you can only run once in a day. So at 3 o'clock is what it can do. You cannot do repeated. If you were to do repeated, one option which you can do is have multiple such jobs. Multiple jobs, one at 3 o'clock, one at 4 o'clock, one at 5 o'clock. Maybe you want every 1 hour, you should have 24 entries of that. That's the limitation currently with this. It cannot have it cannot do multiple times transfer in a day. If you want, you can still do it, but multiple times you have to do it. Since this is a demonstration, I cannot wait for a time. I'm going to run it right away. So, and this is a name which it's going to give. Click on create. So certain permissions are going to be updated. Once it does, it's going to start my transfer process. So it is calculating how many files are there, what is the source, what is the destination. I have this pause and play button. If I want to pause it, I can pause it. If I want to cancel it, I can do it. It detected there are two objects. Now it's going to transfer it. Currently nothing has been transferred. Let's just wait for a minute. Yes, it is transferred. So what is this indication? The transfer was successful, which means I can go to my Google Cloud storage bucket. If I go to my multi-regional bucket, it's going to be empty. An empty bucket is not going to cost you anything. So if you want to leave it, it's your choice. If you want to delete it, you can delete it. There's no harm here. And when I go to my regional one, you will see the two objects is now transferred. So this is where you can use transfer service, and the similar way you can use it for other clouds also. Those two popular clouds, Azure and AWS. AWS basically. So this is the stuff. So how GCP and AWS will be connected to a VPN required? Nothing is required. So I'll just show you. There's nothing required. They usually use access keys. So that is where I mentioned that video, Vivek. You can look into that video for a complete thing, but I'll show you at a high level how it works because I don't have the access to my AWS. No VPN, nothing. It's basically access keys. It's using REST APIs. So if I create a transfer service, if I click on S3, it says what is your S3 bucket. That's fine. Then it's going to ask me some details about access key, the access key. So it's going to be basically using the APIs, the S3 APIs, blob storage APIs from Azure. So if I just switch to Azure, same thing, it is going to ask me the details. So it's not using VPN. And that's the reason I mentioned very clearly the bandwidth is not a constraint because this is between cloud to cloud. Bandwidth is not a constraint. Okay, so that's the option which you get if you want to do from from GCP to GCP, Azure to GCP, AWS to GCP. Okay, so those are the option which you get. But on-prem is not there. On-prem is not there. Now let's take the third scenario, folks. Till here, any questions, folks? Till here, any questions? Okay, if there's no question, I forgot to have a break. So we'll have a break. Once we come back from the break, we will look into the last option. On-prem to GCP, but the network is really bad. So you have a bad network. So what is the option which you can use? There's a question.
Yes, there was one option like on-premises transfer. There is no, we cannot do a demonstration, but I mean data transfer between data center to GCP. I think there is some service. No?
Now there is a new service. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. So transfer service for on-prem, there's a new service which is like 8 months old now. There's an option. We have not yet come to it. But till what we have done, is it clear? So GS util, if the bandwidth is good, transfer service for cloud, if it is from cloud to cloud. Anything in this part, if it's not clear, let me know.
It's,
You can use
in,
multiple. Yeah.
okay. In like 8 months ago, let's say there was no on-premises transfer service. So
No,
people
it
were
was not.
transferring data either using the GS util and transfer appliance. There were only two options
No,
to transfer.
transfer appliance for on-prem will not work. Transfer appliance they are going to use. Yes. Transfer appliance or GS util is what people were using before this new product called as transfer service for on-prem came. Yes. We'll see all your videos in the YouTube, so you don't need to. So don't need to get them. Okay. Or do we need to? You can. No. Usually, I don't want you to see all the videos, Anil. So what is important? I'll definitely mention in the chat something which is relevant. So if you are interested, you can look into it. So I don't have any issues there. So can you please share what all the subscription that all plans will apply to us? Uh, Normal thing. So there's nothing special which you get as a normal YouTube viewer. What you get is what you get, Anil. So there's something like a membership that is not going to apply to you people. So if you want, you can get those memberships if you want. It's going to be in online itself, there itself. If you want, you can buy some subscription membership. There are some specific videos which I post. Some of them I would have shared it in the class itself. So if you have any specific question, let me know. There are certain stuffs which I cover it in the class. Only some implementation stuffs which will not be covered. Say, for example, how to set up a GCP account with the domains. We did not do in detail in the class, but I have done as a demonstration in that videos. If you are interested, you can join those things.
Yeah,
So we'll
because I
stop
was
it.
seeing
Yeah.
you're posting new videos, and that is much more relevant maybe after these all your sessions. So I think that will be,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Thanks,
yeah, yeah,
thanks, Mike.
yeah. So we'll just take a 10 minutes break, folks. Once we come back, we'll look into an option where the bandwidth is very bad. My on-prem bandwidth is very bad. What is the option which we are going to use? Something called as transfer appliance is what we are going to see. We'll explore that once we come back from the break. So take a 10 minutes break and come back.
This conference will now be recorded.
Now, before the break, we saw two options. One using GS util, and the bandwidth was really good there, a decent bandwidth. We were able to do it. That can help you easily from on-prem to GCP easily. The second one was using cloud to cloud stuff, using a service itself, called as transfer service for cloud, and we were able to do that basically with the user interface. And a point to highlight here is, take it as a small assignment. Find out, maybe by tomorrow you can let me know the command line equivalent of the transfer service. I don't want to do it in the UI. I want a command line mode. Let me know the answer. What is a command for enabling transfer service for cloud in command line? You don't need to give the answer right now. Take your time, do some analysis, and let me know by tomorrow. If you give it, it's good. Otherwise, I'm going to share you the answer. That's it. The last option which we are going to see is again from on-prem to GCP, but in this case, the bandwidth is really bad. It's not a very good bandwidth. Legacy systems, all those things, legacy network, it's a very bad network. So if you were to do that, you get an option in GCP called as transfer appliance. So this is basically a hardware, folks, which is going to be shipped to your data center. You're going to transfer it. It's like you send a very huge disk, they copy it, encrypt, compress, copy it, and send it to you. Send it back to Google Cloud Storage, Google Cloud Data Center. You copy it. So that's the option which you use. So let's look into this transfer appliance. So usually this is from on-prem to GCP only. Technically, if you ask, it's going to work even from AWS to GCP also. But this appliance should be first allowed to enter AWS data center. So this is usually going to come to a data center. So can you expect a GCP product, a Google product entering a AWS data center? Not going to work, right? So even though technically it is possible, but practically when it comes to this thing, it's going to not be allowed. So they are not going to even allow this appliance to enter AWS data center or Azure data center. So that's the reason it only works from on-prem to GCP. One way, one time. Why you always do one time? I'll answer it in a minute. So let's look into those options. When should you use transfer appliance? First, the network is bad. When I mean bad, give me a number. It should be always something measurable. What is that number which I should consider? So I cannot just take a ballpark now. I cannot just say a number randomly. There should be some analysis, statistics behind it. So Google has created the statistics where they have an x-axis, which is time, and y-axis, which is the volume. And they also have in the x-axis the bandwidth which you can have. So 1 Mbps, 10 Mbps, 100 Mbps, 1 Gbps, up to 100 Gbps is the bandwidth. So if you have, say for example, a terabyte of data which you want to transfer, if your on-premise data center has a bandwidth of 10 Mbps, 1 terabyte, 10 Mbps, it's going to take basically 12 days. So if it is taking, the transfer is going to take more than 7 days. This is a rule of thumb. If it's going to take more than 7 days, prefer to use transfer appliance. This is one way. So if I increase my bandwidth somehow for a short time, so 1 terabyte, 100 Mbps, it's going to take 30 hours, which is less than 7 hours, 7 days. So I can just use GS util itself. So this graph is going to be really a handy graph when it comes to real implementations. When should you use transfer appliance? This is going to really come handy there. And usually most of the organizations these days deal in the range of a TB to 10 TB, basically. So there are few extremes organizations where they may deal with petabytes. So if 1 petabyte of data needs to be transferred with a standard leased line like 100 Mbps, it's going to take 3 years, folks. It's going to take 3 years to transfer it. So that's where this appliance comes very, very handy. You just go order it. It's going to come to your data center. You transfer everything. It's going to reach back Google's data center. Then they are going to you and you can copy it to a Google Cloud storage bucket. So that's going to be a little easier, basically. So this is one rule of thumb where this entire stuff is done by Google. So I would strongly suggest to put this in our implementation documentation, the cheat sheet which we are creating, because in the exam it's going to be a little difficult for you to remember this numbers, and it's not even easy to remember it. So, but when you're doing real implementation and there is a huge volume, and you want to say whether transfer appliance could be a good choice, ask the details from the customer and look into this graph. This is going to help you out. So you can get this graph even, I just got it from net only. So GCP, transfer appliance. If I do transfer appliance, I go to images. I get this image. That is where I have taken it. So I'm just going to take a screenshot of this image. This is a good one. This is a good one, really a good one. So I'll just snip it and add it in our implementation documentation. So you can use this as your chart. When to use transfer. One of the criterias. There are lots of criterias. One of the criteria is going to be this one. So let me add this in the implementation documentation. When to use transfer appliance. Pasted it. Use this as the rule of thumb, and I can also mention the link. Good. So this is one rule of thumb which you can use, and it can come into picture. Now let's look into what is this transfer appliance all about. So people with AWS background, if you have heard of AWS Snowball, it is exactly the same thing here. Maybe it has a little higher configuration, but transfer appliance has a little smaller configuration is what I heard basically. So it's basically it's a physical device. So when you order it, it's going to be sent to your data center in two different fashions. Basically, this is a rackable. In your data center, you can put it into the existing rack. It's going to work. This one has some wheels, all those things inbuilt, so it's going to be self-contained. So you don't need to put it into a rack. And your transfer appliance comes in four different sizes, and there are two firmwares available: 2.2 version, 4.40 version. So for 2.2, basically behind the scene uses HDD, magnetic disk. So it's going to be not, when it comes to the IOPS wise, it's going to be a little slower, but you can have two ranges, TA100, TA480. The number indicates the storage volume it can store. So 100 terabytes, 480 terabytes. So with some compression, and there's a good amount of compression technology used. So with some compression, what you can do is you can go up to 750 terabytes of data easily in one appliance. This bigger one is your 750 terabyte transfer appliance. So with compression, you can go up to 750. But reality is, you may see some marketing documents where it says using transfer appliance you can have petabytes of information transferred from on-prem to GCP. Yes, it is possible, but if you look into the details of it, you need at least two transfer appliance, because the max you can have in one appliance is 750. If it's a petabyte, uh, you have to basically use a two appliance basically. So you have to use two appliance, maybe two 480 stuffs. And the name, if you look at it right, to some extent I was a great fan of Terminator movies, so the series. So TA, so looks like somewhat similar to those Terminator names, the Arnold Smashmakers names, basically TA100, TA480, something like this. The way you can relate it, this is with the Terminator is terminate your on-prem, something like that. So T100 is what I understand, if I'm not wrong. So this is terminate your on-prem, come to GCP. So somehow a name there. TA100, TA480, basically on HDD, basically on magnetic disk type, magnetic type. And there's a new version 4.0 firmware where it is going to be on SSD, solid state drive, where you get it in smaller versions also. 40 terabytes also you can transfer, or you get 300 terabyte option. So there are totally 4 sizes which you get. So how do I order it? Simple. Just go to my GCP console. Under my transfer, data transfer, we explored already transfer service for cloud. The next part which we are going to explore is transfer appliance. So click on this transfer appliance. You can just order it. You can order the details. You just mention the details, your email ID, and there is another rule of thumb. What is that? One rule of thumb which we saw is if it's going to take longer than 7 days, prefer to use basically transfer appliance. Another rule of thumb is Google recommends minimum you should have at least 20 terabytes. If it's not going to be minimum 20 terabytes, the return on investment is not going to be there. This shows really how Google is very transparent with respect to their pricing part. They can make money by just not putting this message, right? This is just a recommendation they are putting. Appliance will not be cost effective because the product is little expensive. It's an appliance, there's some shipping involved, all those things. So basically they give you that recommendation. If it's 10 terabytes, try if you can get a temporary lease line, increase your bandwidth, transfer it from GS Util to Google Cloud Storage. That's one option. But if you still want to go ahead, you can order it for 10 terabytes also. There's no problem, but they are giving their recommendation. So 20 terabytes is another way of seeing. So at least more than 20 terabytes, you are going to have some return on investment, basically. So you fill in the details. So I'm just going to mention like 40. Mention the business name, the company name, the current location of the data, where it is. I'll tell you there is some issue with this data. Where is that location? Basically, they have put everything. So is there India? Any Asian countries? Sri Lanka? I guess all Asian countries. Like this is just a normal list of countries which they have put. But there is some issue here. India is not there. Yeah, India is there. So Asian countries are also there. But there's an issue with here. I'll tell you what is that later. Just click on submit. Since I'm using a free trial account, I'm not going to submit it. It's not going to be even recognized. So, but in a real project, you submit it. Then what is going to happen? Somebody is going to get back to you with a confirmation email and it's going to be shipped to your data center. What's going to happen is going to happen something like this. Step one, I'll come back. What is this rehydrator in a minute? So go to your Google Cloud console, order it. What is the volume? You mention it. Step two, you're going to receive the appliance. It's going to be shipped via something like FedEx or any kind of delivery service. It's going to come to your data center, tamper evident case. Then step three, connect your appliance to your data center with all those Ethernet stuffs. Start transferring the information. Before you do it, you will be asked to set up a passphrase, a password kind of a stuff, and it's going to start compressing the data, encrypt it, and be copied to your appliance. Once it is done right, what you should do as a customer, ship the appliance back to Google Cloud. So there is going to be some naming conventions. You just follow that, you ship it back. Once you ship it back, once it reaches, Google is going to notify you, yes, it has reached, and they will also connect it to your specific project. Once they connect it, what you do is you just go log into your GCP console and go to your marketplace. go to your marketplace and launch a service called as rehydrator. So it is like pumping your data back, rehydration. So rehydrator is what you are going to use. And this was an important one, which I got as one of the questions in my first time when I took rehydrator. Like, how do you get the data? So most of the courses, official courses also, they just mention about transfer appliance, but it's not complete until it reaches your Google Cloud Storage bucket. So you have to, once the data reaches Google's data center, they notify you basically in your step 6. Step 5, they are going to notify you. You have to log into your GCP console. Then what you should do, go to marketplace, search for transfer appliance. This is a appliance, transfer appliance rehydrator. When I click on this, it's a packaged product already. So transfer appliance, what does this do? You have captured and transferred the data from your staging bucket to Google Cloud Storage using the transfer appliance. The data is compressed and encrypted, because when it was uploaded or copied into into your appliance, it was compressed and encrypted. In order to use the data, please run this rehydrator appliance. It will decompress and decrypt the data into a temporary staging bucket. There's going to be a temporary staging bucket, and it should be, and store it in your final destination. Hint, the bucket cannot be same. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to launch this. What is this? Basically it's a Windows machine. It's a Windows 2000 server which has some necessary softwares, all those things packaged. You just need to provision this, and they are going to let you know how to connect to that appliance, all those things. So from that appliance, copy it into a staging environment, which is your staging bucket. Do all the necessary stuffs, then upload it to a final Google Cloud Storage bucket. And they have also hinted you have to use 2 different buckets. So hint, buckets cannot be same. The final destination bucket and your staging bucket cannot be same. It has to be different. So once you rehydrate the stuff, you have copied it. Your data is now in Google Cloud Storage bucket specifically. Then what is the last step? You just inform that I have transferred everything. Then what Google is going to do, the most important thing here, folks, the most important thing is it's going to securely delete all your data, and as per some standards, NIST standard, National Institute of Standard and Technology, specifically NIST 880 standards, completely your data is going to be wiped off, because this is a rented device, right? Maybe this device needs to go again to a new customer. So it's going to be completely erased and ready for the next customer. So these are the entire process which it uses basically. And one important thing from the exam perspective is rehydrator. So it's basically to pump in the data back into your Google Cloud Storage bucket. So this is your transfer appliance. Any questions on this, folks? This is only from on-prem to GCP only. No other options. Technically, there are possible options, but challenges are there where you cannot use it in other clouds and all. So to put it in very simple terms, on-prem to GCP, simple. And this is going to be only one time. Why I mentioned it as one time is the revenue or the cost which you are going to incur for this is going to be really high. Every day you cannot do it. Now, if you have a requirement, right now I have to transfer 1 petabyte of data to GCP and I have a very bad network, you cannot do with transfer appliance. There are logistics involved. It's going to take around 5 days or 10 days to reach your data center. So it's not going to be immediate. So that's the reason it's always one way, one time transfer. So if you have petabytes of information and you want to move to cloud, order to transfer appliance, ship the data back. Once it is in Google Cloud Storage, any incremental data, use your GS util. That's going to be a combination which you can use, but every time you cannot order it unless your company or the customer is rich enough to do it. Okay, so that's the reason it is always one way, one time transfer.
Mahesh, I think only the plain data, it will be used to transfer plain data only. I think my file system, will not be compatible with file system. That means I just want to know which kind of data we can transfer, because there are multiple types of some file system, some plain data, database type of.
Data, that's it. It's a simple data. So it could be a backup data. It could be an ISO image, whatever it is. You can keep it. What you can keep it in Google Cloud Storage. You can keep anything, right? If it could be a file system data, but when you copy it, it's going to become an object in Google Cloud Storage. That's it. So any data you can keep it. There's no restriction there. So if it's a file system, if it's an OS itself, what you will do, all the files, so the OS data, you'll never keep it there, but you make it as a compressed image, upload it. That's it. Any kind of data you can keep it. There's no restriction that only you keep this data. It could be a backup data, an ISO image, maybe .mdf, a backup from your database, .bak, Microsoft SQL Server's backup files. You can keep anything, Vivek. There's no restriction as such.
I can see, let's DWH related data is the one which customer keeps for a long time, some regulatory specific data. That's actually okay. That's it. Because I thought that
Yeah.
this is the thing which is very tricky. Means without practical, it's really hard to imagine that how data gets
And actually,
transferred.
to be very frank, I'll show you the next part, which is going to make it. Uh, this part, right, transfer appliance is only for uh, exam perspective. The reason is unless your organization or your customers are going to be, now transfer appliance is not available everywhere. So if you look into the documentation, it says it's available only in these countries only, or these locations: US, Canada, European Union, Norway, and Switzerland. Now, if you are working for a Asian customer, you cannot even propose transfer appliance. So it's not available worldwide. So the drop down which you saw in the ordering part is a bug actually, folks. So they have somebody who has created it, have created it without any thoughts there. So if you just go here for the transfer appliance, the data location, it cannot be in in Asian countries and some parts of South America. You cannot use it. It's only limited in these 5 locations only. Now,
Uh,
that practicality part will not even come into picture. I have heard only one person in the entire batches which I've heard done. He used it, and that too from that too not transfer appliance exactly, but snowball. So practicality, this is going to be difficult. Even if you take anything, right, any official thing, you will not have this option to test it out. So just keep it as an handy option. If you get a chance to work, then you're very fortunate to use this part. How do configure all those things? And that too, sometimes people ask this question. As a cloud architect, if I should I need to go to the customer's data center to do all those things? I would say no. So you help them order this. It's going to reach the data center. There's going to be some operation person in the on-prem in the customer's place. They are going to do it. It's a normal thing. They connect it and then upload it or send it back. Go ahead, Vivek. You had something.
so actually, I have faced some question. Faced one question, similar question. There are
Mm.
petabytes of data in data center. How will you transfer? Last week I had an interview in which they asked me there are 10,000 VMs you need to transfer, you need to relocate to the GCP. You need to prepare a strategy, and some there is left and shift, but some servers is having petabytes of data. How will you plan? Suddenly he asked me it's such a vague question. That's why I'm emphasizing which kind of data we can transfer, and is it possible how to plan a strategy to uh, transfer such a huge data, because till now I know I can use sutil and transfer service, that's it, but how practical is this, and what are the limitation is quite difficult to understand until you get any practical kind of experience then.
And to be very frank, to get a practical stuff, it's going to be again a challenge.
Yeah,
It's very
that,
less you get it. So usually to transfer huge amount of such data, right? People
mm,
usually what they do is the migrate for VM or migrate for Anthos is what they usually do. So first, the VMs are going to be copied. then the data is going to be streamed basically. So that Velostrata can help you out in that case.
Yesterday,
So
I did a practical on Velostrata with 5 machines. So
yeah,
though it was successful, I did after when I get this question from interviewer. That's why I thought this kind of
got it.
you suggested me to do this, but luckily, or I can say it was unluckily, I got this question. The interviewer asked me, plan a strategy. You need to migrate 10,000 VMs to GCP, and some data is a left-hand shift, some is a huge petabyte of scale of data. How will you plan?
So
Tell
what
me.
you can do basically that for the some lift and shift, you can use Velostrata or now called as migrate for VM. And for those petabytes of information, one time what you can have is order maybe a couple of appliance, transfer it to Google Cloud. It's a hybrid option which you're going to. Some part you use transfer appliance, some part you use Velostrata or migrate for VM. So combination, not one solution. A combination you use it and then do it.
How was your experience? Just a 2 minute, if you can share which kind of data transfer projects have you done till now, so that we.
Data transfer using appliance, I have never used it to be very frank, because most of the implementations which I have done was either born in the cloud or customers in Asia. So if it's Asian customer, I cannot even order it. So I've not used transfer appliance. What I have is only the theoretical knowledge only. So, but I have used migrate for VM once. That too, it was from AWS to GCP. So it was little straightforward there. From on-prem to GCP, I have not done any migrations till now,
Oh,
actually. My real
okay.
implementations.
No issue, sir. After that bad experience of interview, I had a good interview,
Hmm.
in which I cleared 2 rounds, and third round is scheduled for tonight. That's why I'm asking. He's a global head actually of
Yeah.
GCP.
So maybe we can discuss this towards the end, Vivek. So the break
Okay.
we will, yeah. So basically, this appliance you need to keep in mind, folks. This could be an important form from your real implementation perspective. It's not available everywhere. At least for the Asian, you can just keep this as a thing. Asian customers, it's not available. So Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, India, Australia. So if you were to do it, you will not have this option. So if there is no option like this, and I wanted to do something which is more regular way of doing it, all those things, that's where you get a new alternative option called as transfer service for on-prem. So this one is a product which was almost like, now it's close to 10 months or 11 months if I'm not wrong. Last year it was launched. So the entire purpose of this is it combines some best features of transfer service for cloud, some best features of transfer appliance, something like an hybrid kind of a stuff, where in your data center, the prerequisite for this is minimum you have 300 Gbps, 300 Mbps as your bandwidth. That is a minimum requirement. You should have this. If you have this kind of a bandwidth, you can install this agent. There's an agent, a Docker image, which you need to install on a Linux machine in your data center. And it's going to start sending your data to Google Cloud Storage. And you do everything UI using UI only, no command line required. So everything is going to be UI. So this is a new option which you can leverage from on-prem to GCP. This could be really helpful, at least for Asian customers, because transfer appliance is not available. And they were to regularly schedule this data transfer. They don't want to write any scheduling logic using GS util. So in that case, you use transfer service for on-prem. It has some cool features there. So let me show you some of the cool features. Uh, First of all, prerequisite is bandwidth minimum 300 Mbps. In the on-prem, this has to be installed on a Linux kind of a machine, POSIX environment. Basically, Linux or a Unix kind of an environment is what you need to have. Then it should be a Docker image. So those are some of the prerequisites. Once you set it up, you can. So if I click on my, you can click on your uh, storage, sorry, data transfer, the third option. transfer service for on-prem. So this is something which you need to look for some words, folks, in the exam. If they just mention transfer service, it's going to be a little tricky. Look for what is that they are mentioning. Is it transfer service for cloud or transfer service for on-prem? So if it is transfer service, prefer to think as transfer service for cloud. Basically, in the beginning, this transfer service for cloud to cloud migration, it was just called as transfer service. Because they added a new product, now they slightly renamed it. Okay, so if they have not mentioned very clearly what kind of transfer service, please assume it to be transfer service for cloud. Okay, so transfer service for on-prem looks like something like this. I have to set up this connection. So when I set up this connection, basically I have some pub/sub resource which we have not yet discussed. So then I create a Docker stuff. The entire process is UI driven. You set this up. Once you have this entire thing set up, basically what you can do is you can create a transfer job. The job you can configure where you're going to say your on-prem location. Then what's your destination? Destination is always going to be a Google Cloud Storage bucket. And you can have certain advanced options like scheduling. How do you want to schedule it? Every day or something like custom. How frequently you want. You can go up to hourly. Every hour, repeat every hour, which was not there in our transfer service for cloud. But here you can go up to every hour, run a job, scheduled job. So this is something which you get as an added advantage. The scheduling is in built in, and the lowest which I can go is every 1 hour transfer. And because it's going to be running in my on-prem can be choked. The network can be choked because of this process running. So what I can do is I can do some rate limiting or the bandwidth, how much this service should be consuming. So I can also set some bandwidth so that it does not suck most of my bandwidth. And people start complaining, the on-prem people start complaining. So I can use this part as for rate limiting. So you get some good options here. Basically, you install a Docker image in your on-prem machine and make these things work. Uh, I need to try to set up a demo, so I was not able to do it. The only reason is on my Windows system, if I install a Docker, it was becoming slow. Maybe I have to try something different. So if I get something done, I'll definitely show you a demonstration. But please be aware there's a product like this which is existing, transfer service for on-prem. I don't think so there's going to be any quick labs or anything which is available. So the only way which I think is looking into the documentation and setting it up, at least as of now, because it's a new product, basically. So those are your options which you have. Those are the four totally options which we saw was to leverage GS util, then was to leverage transfer service for cloud, then transfer appliance. Now the fourth one, transfer service for on-premise data. So 4 different options. Based on your bandwidth, you use those things. Any questions till now, folks, on the 4 different options? This will be very important, basically. Okay, if there's no question, a question for you people now. Your company wants to migrate from Alibaba cloud. So every cloud will have a blob storage, folks. Every cloud. And every cloud will have some kind of a VM. Those are basic stuffs. Without that, it is not even called as cloud. So the requirement is your company wants to migrate from Alibaba cloud. Why specifically Alibaba? There is a reason. Nothing to do with the country, folks. Just don't take that. So specifically Alibaba cloud blob storage, they also have something similar to Google Cloud Storage. So you want to migrate from Alibaba cloud to Google Cloud Storage. How will you achieve it? What are the options which you have? GS util you have, then you have transfer service for cloud, transfer service for on-prem, and transfer appliance. 4 options you have. What is the option which you will use? Vivek, your answer is correct, but how will you achieve it? You can put it in the chat, then we can discuss it. Others, from Alibaba Cloud to Google Cloud Storage. Cloud to cloud, how will you do, folks? Okay, Anil Kumar got it correctly. Parallel upload in region bucket. Transfer service will not work. Transfer service for cloud will not work because there's no Alibaba Cloud as an option. So there's no Alibaba Cloud as an option if I go here. It's very clearly mentioning only you have AWS and Azure. So Alibaba is not there. Would you want to expose everything as public URL? May not be. You may not be comfortable exposing everything as public URL. So transfer service is not a good choice. Anil Kumar and Vivek got it correctly so far, but they did not explain the complete part. Your option is absolutely correct, but if you were to implement it, let me know how do you implement it. You are on the right track actually. Anil, your short form was too good. STS, I was never aware such a but I don't think so such a short form exists. So storage transfer service will not work. I just showed you. Any thoughts, folks? Vivek and Anil Kumar, if you can think little more, I guess you will be able to get that. Your options were good. Can I use transfer appliance, folks? Transfer appliance? No, because it's from on-prem. So Alibaba Cloud, you cannot do it. Transfer service, I showed you, not possible. Now, transfer service for on-prem, you can try it. Possibilities are there, but it has to run on some machine there. GS util is some possible way, but where will I have this GS util first of all? That's going to give you the answer. Where should I run this GS util? It's a software, right? In which place I should run it? In which place I should run it? No. It should be basically very simple, right? These are the steps, folks. This is what one possible option which I can think of. Provision a Linux virtual machine. Why Linux? Cost effective, no price more. In Alibaba Cloud, Elastic Cloud Service. Every cloud has a virtual machine service. They call it as Elastic Compute Service. And install SDK, Cloud SDK there. So in the Alibaba Cloud environment, I create a virtual machine. That to Linux because cost effectiveness. Windows means I need to pay some extra cost for the license. I install Cloud SDK. Cloud SDK is free. The Google Cloud SDK is free. Just configure that Cloud SDK. Then what I will do is from Alibaba Cloud VM to the blob storage, there should be some connectivity, right? Definitely it's going to be there. You copy everything to your virtual machine, the Alibaba Cloud virtual machine. Once it is there, just use your GS util -m copy command to this thing. Simple. So Anil Kumar and Vivek got it correctly. Basically, with GS util installing SDK. So this way you can do it. Now, what is the key message here is basically GS util is going to be the king. Anywhere you want, I can make GS util work. It's not only in Alibaba Cloud. If you want to do it in AWS also, I can do it. Just install EC2 instance, install Cloud SDK, or you can also just install GS util itself. Standalone GS util is also possible. You can just install it and do the GS util copy command. Because it's cloud to cloud, the bandwidth is going to be definitely really good there. There was a question. What was the question?
Mahesh, instead of I said that SDK in any VM, we cannot install that GS util in the target machine. If it is a VM, either VM or Windows, though we can install GS util to the target system where the data resides, and we can start transfer from there. Is it not possible?
Target is what? target is Google Cloud Storage, right? Source is Alibaba.
I'm sorry,
So how
source
can you
means
source?
sorry,
The
not
source.
source
Yeah.
machine itself.
Yeah.
That we can install GS util on the source machine itself instead of any mediator machine. Is it not possible?
So blob storage, right? They only expose via APIs. So how can you install a software on a Google Cloud Storage bucket? Forget about Alibaba Cloud. Can you install a software on Google Cloud Storage? No, right? So you cannot install it. So you have to use a intermediate system like a virtual machine. Bring it, then do it. Or what you can do is basically write a API, REST API, which calls your Alibaba stuff, Google Cloud, Alibaba's blob storage stuff, copy it into your Google Cloud Storage. If you don't want to install it on a virtual machine, that's going to require writing a code and all. We don't know whether Alibaba Cloud has a client library, all those things. The simplest one, what we have learned, we can use it. Every cloud is going to have a virtual machine. So create a virtual machine in whatever the form in that cloud. Install Cloud SDK. If it's a virtual machine, it's an infrastructure as a service. I can definitely install softwares. Cloud SDK, I can install it, and I should be able to copy it. Simple option. Instead of making it too much complicated, simple option. All right. So just to give you some hints, folks, that's it. So you may see some kind of such implementation questions which can come. So just make it very simple. Don't try to make it too complex. So it's going to help you out. So and the reason why I took Alibaba Cloud, the only reason was it was not in the list of transfer services for cloud. Maybe in future it may come. When I started if you look into that AWS S3 bucket demo, right, you'll not even see Azure. It was not there 1.5 years back. Now they have added Azure. Maybe later the next popular one is Alibaba Cloud, at least as per the Gartner report. They may add it. IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, or if Google cannot provide support for everything, you still have GS Util. And anyway, you are running in on a virtual machine. In that virtual machine itself, configure cron tab so that every day you can transfer from Alibaba blob storage to Google Cloud Storage. Simple. That's the option. Now, one more question. So in short, Alibaba Cloud to VM, Alibaba Cloud to VM to GCP faster. So we can do from Alibaba Cloud local to GCP. No, so I did not get this. From Alibaba Cloud to VM. Which VM you have to mention me?
So you're saying from Ali Cloud we will create one VM, right? And then we will set up G Cloud
Cloud is
SDK, and then we
yeah.
will transfer from that VM to GCP, right?
From that cloud, from that virtual machine to Google Cloud Storage directly.
Yeah, okay. But we can also do copy from Ali Cloud to local system.
Local in the
Local,
sense your local system, VM, local virtual machine,
yeah,
local laptop.
local.
You have to bear your bandwidth. The cost you have to download and
But that
upload.
will be slow, right? That will be slow,
That's
much
going
more
to be slow.
slow
That's
than.
going to be slow.
Yeah, got it.
And depending on the volume, it's going to not be a good choice also.
Yeah, got it.
The
Thank you.
only thing which you need to be worrying about here is there's going to be some egress cost. We are not talked about networking, but the outgoing cost from your Alibaba, you need to bear the cost. So you need to look into the specific cloud providers egress cost there. We'll talk about what is ingress, what is egress at a later point of time. So that is something going to be incurred there. Now, the next question, we can definitely do this demo. The next question is something like this, folks. As a DevOps person, I create various startup scripts for my VMs. So we have done it right in our MIG demo. Also, we did a startup script. My job as a DevOps person every day in, day out, I use my Cloud Shell. I create various startup scripts for my organization. As a part of my job, I have to commit these startup script into CSR. What is CSR, folks? CSR, I purposely put an acronym here. Maybe looks very silly, but sometimes the acronyms are going to be really helpful. No, cloud source repository. Cloud source repository. We saw in our Kubernetes class, right? A Git repo, cloud source repo, cloud source repository. and also in Google Cloud Storage. So there are two places where I'm going to keep my startup script. One in version control system, one into a Google Cloud Storage bucket. Why should I keep it in Google Cloud Storage bucket? Because when I create a virtual machine, the startup script can only take from a Google Cloud Storage bucket. It cannot take a startup script from a version control system. So that is where I have to put it in Google Cloud Storage bucket. Uh, Using git add, git commit, and git push, the standard git commands, I can push any changed files to cloud source repository or to any git repos like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. That is okay. But it is difficult to copy the new and the modified files to Google Cloud Storage because I cannot know what has been changed, what has not been changed, what needs to be applied, what needs to be copied to Google Cloud Storage. This is my problem statement. First, let me know the question is clear or not, folks. This was a question which I created just before the class. So maybe the English may not be really correct, but let me know whether you have got the question. The question is, uh, basically, I create lots of files. No. So the question, okay, first let me know, before providing an answer, right? Let me know the question is clear. Okay, let me read it out again. Uh, let me read it out again. So simple, folks. I'll just put it in simple terms like this. I have one startup script. The startup script name is install, or why don't I go here itself? Launch my Cloud Shell. I'll explain you once, and I want you to think. Then only I'm going to do the demonstration. Come on. So these are two startup scripts which I have, folks. Install Apache 2, then in some custom scripts which we use for our MIG. Now this is in my Cloud Shell. As a DevOps person, I always create these n number of scripts. Now to keep a track, right? To be on the safer side, because Cloud Shell is ephemeral. After 120 days, if you don't actually use it, it's going to take off all those things. It's going to be taken back. So after 120 days. So to be on the safer side, I push everything to my Git repository. In Google, I'm going to use something called as is that source repository, cloud source repository. I put everything into my cloud source repository so that I keep a track. I keep a track. What are the changes? And if any change I do, it's going to be kept there. Similarly, I have to keep a copy of the startup script in a Google Cloud Storage bucket. Why? Because when I create a VM, the startup script always expects either you put it inline locally to the VM in the VM itself, or put it in your Google Cloud Storage bucket. So I cannot read it from a source repository. So if I just go to my startup script, yeah, either I put it here or I put it as here, startup hyphen script hyphen URL. I just mentioned the Google Cloud Storage bucket details. So hope the question is now clear, folks. Question is clear. But any changes which I do to my Google Cloud Storage bucket, sorry, any changes locally which I do, those changes can be picked up very easily by my Git, because there's a track which it can keep a track. Yes, this file has been changed. This has been changed. Only push this. Don't push any other files. That kind of a stuff it's can to do. But with my Google Cloud Storage, I cannot do that. So what is the option which we can do basically? First, let me explain this entire stuff via a small demonstration. Then you can give me the option. But before I proceed further, versioning is not going to help you out. Let me be very clear. Versioning is not going to help you out. So totally take it off. from your mind, versioning is not going to help. What is versioning going to do is basically you can have multiple versions. So maybe I'll try to show you this demonstration first, then ask you the question. So first of all, what I will do is, folks, I'll create a repository. So I'll create a repository. So last time we created a repo for our Kubernetes stuff, right? We'll create one more repository today. So I'll call this as storage startup script, uh, GCE startup scripts, startup script. And what's the project? Batch 6. Create a repo. So create a repo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this repo, empty repo, into my Cloud Shell. So copy this line, copy this line. I'll run this command. Gcloud source repo, clone it. It's an empty repo. Empty repo. Done. Now if I just go to my startup script, it's going to be empty. It's going. Oh, sorry. What was that? It should be GCE startup script. Sorry, startup script. Now this is an empty repo. If I put ls minus a, there's a .git folder which is going to keep track of what are the stuffs here. Now first time the repo is there, so I'm just going to copy some code, startup scripts. Done. Now the two files are there. Now if I do git status, it's going to say there are two files for Mahesh which is not committed. Let me add it. Git add. So it's going to be in the track, new files. Now I do git commit minus m, first commit. Done. Git push. I push it to my source code repository. Now the files are there. The files are there. Now if I just go and look into this, the two files should be there. Good. It's there. Now, as per the requirement, I have to keep it in a Google Cloud Storage bucket also. What will I do? Basically, I'll go create a bucket also. Is there any bucket first of all, or we'll create a brand new bucket only, so we'll not have any confusion. So I'm just going to delete it. The reason why I keep deleting the older one is not to conflict with the previous demos which we did. And otherwise we'll get into some debugging stuffs, all those things. If you do want to try doing it. If you get any issues, let me know. So let me create one bucket, mb minus c. It should be regional one. Why regional one? I'll tell you tomorrow. Regional Asia, because the VMs which you create are zonal. So the startup script, I can easily get it from these buckets. It's going to be having lesser cost. So there shall underscore project ID hyphen startup scripts. Startup script. I have my I mentioned the zone. It's a wrong thing. So okay, the script is there. As per my requirement, as my day-to-day work, what I do is gsutil cp star dot file. I made a mistake. Okay, it worked. So let me just Okay, it created something like this. 1 minute, folks. Let me just delete it. One minute. I'll finish the demonstration, Anil Kumar. Then I'll answer your stuff. So I just wanted to explain the question itself via demonstration. So file is copied. Now I have the source content in track in my source repository. I have my startup scripts in my Google Cloud Storage bucket. So far it is good. Now there's a requirement which comes. The management says you have to edit this file, Mahesh, so that something needs to be added. So what is that file change? I'm going to do some edit to this. So they wanted to capture certain more components to be installed. So maybe they are doing some on networking. So apt get install trace route. So this is something which I wanted to install as a part of the startup script. So a new entry I have added. Now, what was that file which I changed? Install hyphen apache2.js as such. Now, if I do git status, it keeps a track. What you changed, it keeps a track because that's a capability of a versioning system. So it can keep a track of that. Now, meaning I can only do git add install. It's going to be there. Git commit -m second commit. Git push. It's going to be there. So my repo, if I just go and see it, it's going to be perfect with those changes. Changed it, it's there. And if I look into those changes, what was the second thing? It's going to show me point to point what was the changes done. Everything is going to be there. Good. Now I have to do the same thing to my bucket also, right? That was a whole requirement. So now I know only one file. I can do what? I can do something like gsutil cp install, something like this. I can do it. But if there are n number of files, how will I sync the content in my bucket, in my folder, to that specific bucket? This was a whole question, folks. This was a whole question. Now I cannot remember every time which bucket, or maybe I have to look here, look into this versioning, see what file was changed, only choose that. But it's going to be time consuming, hectic. So then, yes, now Anil Kumar got it correctly. So now I have to keep the data synced between a folder and a bucket. So in that case, versioning is not going to come. So that's where you're going to use something called as rsync. So you're going to use rsync, which is going to keep the folders up to date. So let me show you how this is going to work. So this was something which Vivek was also saying, do we discuss rsync? So I mentioned we are going to discuss today. So this is the use case. So now the question, hope the question is clear, folks. We do some changes, but how we are going to keep the data in sync with our this thing. So let's try whether it's going to work. Um, yeah, thank you for that this thing. So maybe you can put it to everybody, Anil Kumar, so that they can look into that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this command gsutil ls. So only one file was changed, gsutil rsync. So if you want to run it in a multi-threaded fashion, no problem, run it. No problem, run it. So -r recursively. Now I have to go one level up. Let me go one level up. So I wanted to sync this folder itself completely. So how will I do? Basically like something like this. gsutil -m rsync -r recursively. this is my content, and to which bucket. This is what I'm going to do. Now let me just do an rsync first. So, oh, sorry, what was, oh, okay, I had lots of stuff to be done. Okay, the startup scripts was, it was having that git also, so I have to make sure I ignore that. So, but files got uploaded. So let me just see whether it got uploaded here. It's, so that git folder also keeps lots of track. The contents is going to be there. So even that got created. So maybe I should make sure I do something like this. Let me just delete this. There are some hidden contents for versioning purpose. They keep it. So I'll just delete this part. I don't want to do it. Only star.sh file. We'll try to do that, something like this. That's going to be better. Something like this to avoid any unwanted content to be synced. So let me just do this. Exclude. Is there an option of exclude? Let me try it. Let me try this option first. Is there an exclude option? I have to try it. I don't know the command. Exclude. Uh, skip the objects. Okay, maybe I'll try this one. Not recursively. Let's just try this. Source. Okay, thank you. So minus X is a exclude one is what it is showing. Basically, let me try it. Oh, you have to put a pattern like that. Okay, that's a syntax basically. So can I try this one? Is it going to work? Star dot star slash star dot, sorry, dot slash star. Okay, sh, the folder. Yeah, this is the one. Let me see whether this is going to work for me. Awesome. Thank you. So it has now synced. Nothing has been changed basically. Now, let me update it. Thanks a lot, Anil Kumar. So now what I will do is do a small change one more time. Edit. Uh, edit the change. So add a new file or a new content. Install wget minus wget. I want to install it. This is a new change. Now, if I go inside this, do the same thing with my git, it's going to track it. We know it can track it. It tracks it very well. What is the file? It's going to do it. But when it comes to Google Cloud Storage bucket, if I run this command one more time, it should only sync install-apache2.sh file. Nothing should be done because it's synced. Let's see whether it's going to work. Is it not working? Maybe this command is not working.
So here we are
Okay, I should
excluding
not exclude it. I should only include it. I
.sh.
should X is for exclude. Include is for I by any chance? Is there any?
So here we are
Let me
excluding
just
all
see.
the
I want
changes
to
in the
include. I
sh
don't
file.
want to do the exclude part. Yeah, we are excluding. Yeah, we are excluding it. Got it. We are excluding it. So GSUtil rsync. Only include a specific extension is what I wanted. Exclude, it's going to exclude. For include, they don't have any option. There's going to be one we just need to explore. That's it. Okay, or I'll see what is that files for content which I have to exclude.
Don't we have like minus v tag?
Minus?
V tag, like in grep command, right? If you want to exclude anything, we'll have like grep minus v. Do you have such
Okay,
tag?
so I thought I'll just use the GS util features itself instead of using other stuff. So if you do something in Windows, you may not have grep. So at that time, you cannot use. So, but if I use any combinations in GS util itself, it's going to work everywhere because it's the same executable, right? So that was the whole reason, Mangesh. So exclude. Is there an option to exclude a directory? Then at least that's going to work. Let me just see one last minute, folks. Okay. Buckets minus exclude is what? Okay, exclude data is also there. Okay, I will use this one then. Okay, I'll just use this one. I can exclude specifically this one. Then it's going to help us. So instead of this, I'm going to mention it as dot get then slash. Is it this slash? Yeah, this slash. It was just a command which we have to explore. That's it. Okay, this worked. So we just tried to do only the sync, exclude this dot get, which excluded it. Only the changes which we sent is going to be there. So now if I just view this object, gsutil cat so you see that stuff, only that is got synced. So with this beautiful command, gsutil rsync, we can keep the data sync across our with a directory on your Cloud Shell with your Google Cloud Storage bucket, basically. Or between two buckets also you can do it. So now we have just added a startup script in one regional bucket, Singapore. Uh, for VMs getting created in Singapore, reading it from this is going to be an easier one. So the egress cost is going to be less. But if I have a VM which is in US and I want to use the same startup script, I will not use this bucket. What I will do is I will have one more bucket where I can use rsync between two different buckets. So I can sync between a directory, a local directory and a bucket, or between two buckets in Google Cloud Storage. So two options are possible with rsync basically. So I could have just mentioned rsync the option, but I wanted to show you a use case which could be helpful for you. That was the whole reason why we did this. So thanks Anil Kumar for giving that exclude command. That was really helpful. Uh, we'll stop it here, folks. Any questions? So the option for this is GS util rsync. Tomorrow when we resume, we will talk about data encryption. Go ahead, there's a question.
How did you do that gsutil minus help command? Just to check.
Okay. You always type what is the stuff which you want till you know maybe half of the command. So maybe if you know GS util CP afterwards you don't know, just put -help. It's going to show you the manual page, like a Linux, usually the Linux style. So I was interested in only the GS util rsync, so I just used rsync -help.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions, folks? I also did not use rsync very heavily, but I know there's an option existed. But since Vivek mentioned, are we going to discuss it? So I thought, okay, let me create a use story. And it was at 5 o'clock, I got this idea. So I just thought of putting this slide. Any questions, folks? Thanks to Vivek for asking it. And thanks to Anil Kumar for giving that quick recommendation of -6. Teamwork, that's it. Any questions, folks?
So I always used to use a CP command because rsync was never clear to me, though I read one or two times. But going forward, I will use rsync. Thanks,
So it's
everyone.
going to keep your, yeah. So, and because it's going to save your data, you're
Yeah.
uploading your stuff. So you don't need to do every time. It's basically syncing. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mahesh, in this case, we don't need to do that git commit and all those stuff, right? If we use
No.
rsync.
That you have to do. That is to your source code. That's going to your source code. But your storage bucket, if you were to do it, you have to do this one.
Okay.
So two places.
So
We are
if
keeping the data synced in two places.
Okay.
Because here the startup script is in Google Cloud Storage only, basically. That's the reason. All right, folks, if there's no more question, Vivek, you wanted to talk something, so you were telling something, so but I cut short you because it was slightly not off the topic at that time, so I cut short you. You wanted to say
Yeah,
something?
it was just personal experience and also need a better answer of those questions. Thought that you may help me. There was multiple questions. Means first, should I say no? I mean, some question for which I was really confused, but I answer. But I think you should can answer it in a better way. First of all, the question was like that: how you will break a monolithic application having 5 modules or more than 5, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 modules in a microservices, and you need to containerize that application. Okay, what should be the approach and how you will allocate the memory, like resources, CPU? This question was asked in my both interview actually. What would be your approach to assign memory and CPU, and what are the recommendation that you will go, because it is a monolithic application. As of now you have 32 GB RAM or 20 vCPU. Collectively every application, one application is using. But what would be your approach if you break into 5 modules, 5 microservices, and how will you will allocate resources to each microservices? Based on what criteria, what would be your approach? uh, this was the
So
one
first
question.
of all, okay, a microservice to monolithic, the way I usually do is, um, first of all, let's take, okay, let me take, there's an exam, there's an
This
image which I can use.
this
Go
question was
ahead with your
regarding
question.
resource management actually. How you will manage resources.
Okay, resources, okay. 1 minute. Okay, so not on breaking it. So how you manage the resources is what you're saying basically.
There was two questions, and how will you break it, and how on what criteria you will assign memory and CPU? Means like as of now you have 32 GB RAM and 20 vCPU, let's see. All 5 modules comprises in one jar file, and they are using collectively this much of amount of memory. Now, how you will come to know that this module will need this much of resource? This module, I said I will go with the load testing. Then we'll come to know which module and will use what kind of resources. This was my approach. So, but still, I just, because there was a scenario in which he said that you need to containerize very big application. Not only this, the whole stack you need to containerize. I have given a resource of pool of 10,000 CPUs and 20,000 and GB RAM, means 2000 GB RAM. You need to design a, I don't know, it was very big question for me. Means you need to containerize full stack. Means one customer is wanted to migrate its whole application into container, and he has allocated you 10,000 CPUs and 20,000 GB RAM. How, what would be your approach? I was very much confused and didn't answer that. I said simply I have no idea of scale actually. But in a short manner, I can explain you.
Vivek, 1 minute. Just give me a minute. 1 minute. Vivek, can we take this question tomorrow? Sorry, I guess there's a class for my daughter. I have to use the laptop there. So we'll discuss this tomorrow. Okay. So I'll show you a small explanation of also that tomorrow. Okay. So we'll
No
just
issues.
stop it now. Yeah. We'll
Okay,
stop
if
it.
you,
Sorry.
no issues,
Sorry
no
for
issues.
yeah.
If you get any time, just send me the link. Actually, I have
Sure.
tomorrow 9:30. I have a third round of interview.
Sure. I'll send you that.
Maybe I'll
Thank
go
you.
through that something because in
Okay.
last two interview I faced this.
Vivek,
What?
I have to stop it now, so because I have to log into this thing. Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, folks. We'll resume tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.